All right, this is the October 21st, 2025 meeting of the City of Charleston Board of Zoning Appeals Zoning. Present here today are Al Morrison, Robin Richards, John Bennett, Bill Goodwin Jr., and me, your chair, Jeff Tibbles. Present from the planning staff are Robert Summerfield, Matthew Slagle, and Chris Swallock. These proceedings are being recorded, and we ask that those who speak, please identify yourself for the record. We will conduct this meeting in the usual fashion. We will first receive information from city staff about the application and their recommendations. If the recommendation is favorable and no one objects to the application, the matter is uncontested. The Board of Zoning Appeals usually, but not always, approves uncontested applications. For all applications, the board reserves the right to ask questions of the staff, applicant, or others in attendance prior to rendering a decision. If, however, the city recommends against the application, or if there is opposition to the application, we treat the application as contested. We hear from the applicant and anyone else who is in favor of the application. Next, we hear from anyone opposed, followed by a short rebuttal from the applicant. We then close the public hearing portion of the meeting for that particular application and open discussion to the Board of Zoning Appeals members only. We will then make a decision to approve with conditions, or deny the application. The Board of Zoning Appeals zoning has the authority to do three things. Number one, hear appeals to decisions of the zoning administrator. Number two, grant special exceptions, a fact-finding function of the board. And number three, grant variances to the zoning ordinance if the application meets the hardship test outlined in section 54-924 of the ordinance. The board may deliberate and make a final decision on a matter by a majority vote of members present at the hearing and qualified to vote, provided that not less than a quorum is present and qualified to vote. However, an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the board members present and voting shall be required before a use variance may be granted. For a variance to be granted, the Board of Zoning Appeals must make the following findings. A, that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. B, that these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. C, because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. And D, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. I'm required by our city's ordinance to swear you in if you intend to speak. So if you do intend to speak, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? You'll signify by saying I do.
I do.
We do have one deferral on the agenda for this evening, and I think that is B1 for 61 Broad Street. So if you're here on 61 Broad Street, that application will not be heard, and you can be excused. Otherwise, we'll proceed with the full agenda. Board members, we have not one, but two sets of draft meeting minutes for your review and approval, although unfortunately, we can only deal with one because I don't think we have a quorum for the October 7 meeting minutes. But let's just start with the agenda. A, review of minutes and deferred applications from previously advertised BZA-Z agendas. Number one, review minutes of the September 16, 2025 meeting. I do have in my notes and in the minutes that Mr. Bennett, Mr. Morrison, Ms. Richards, and me attended that meeting. So we'll hear a motion. Somebody.
Move approval.
All right, is there a second? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. Mr. Goodwin abstained because he was not present at that meeting. All right. The next item on the agenda, A2, review of minutes of the October 7, 2025 meeting. Again, we don't have a quorum for that. We do not have 4 members present here tonight who also attended that meeting, so we're going to move on. B1, as I explained, has been withdrawn by the applicants, and so that leads us to B2. 16 Blake Street, East Side, Council District 4, PMS number 459-06-01-054, zoned GB. requesting a special exception under section 54-511 to provide 3 existing non-conforming on-site parking spaces. 14 spaces are required for 1,399 square feet of restaurant patron use area. The owner is Sophia Grant. The applicant is Innova Architecture, David Hill, Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so this is located at the corner of Blake Street and Drake Street. This is you can see here on the area where this is. This is just essentially a block off of East Bay. I think most of us know this location. Hannibal's kitchen has been here for quite a while. During the pandemic, as a part of like many restaurants, in order to survive, this location did utilize an area that had been arguably non-conforming parking because it's commercial and these were head-in spaces to begin with. They had converted some of that to outdoor dining. That was helpful and successful for the restaurant. It helped them to survive the pandemic and afterwards. And as a result of the improvements that were made during that time, they have some additional improvements that they would like to make to create a new entrance, to kind of memorialize that outdoor space, which has been not formally approved in its continuance, although there were a lot of conversations between the restaurant's founder's daughter, who's now in charge of the restaurant, and Lee Batchelder and Penny Ashby on this. Again, this is to kind of more formalize that space as a part of the restaurant versus just kind of an impromptu, informal outdoor outdoor dining area. So with that, they've got a few other changes, but those are not really relevant to this request. The other aspect of this request is they are addressing ADA access. And so in putting in the ramp that they are proposing, that does also kind of impact some of that existing non-conforming parking area. They will maintain a couple on-site parking spaces because those are non-conforming. They still can be used as parking. And staff is recommending approval of this request. Again, acknowledgement that this site has never been parked for its users, that this is an area of the site that has been being used for outdoor dining since the pandemic, since about 2020 something into 2021, and has been able to operate, that there is street parking in the area. This is a restaurant that is most definitely neighborhood serving, as well as folks do come from outside the area to eat there. So acknowledgement of that is that there is some other parking. We do have a recommended, if approved, condition that is essentially in line with what their plans are, but we just wanted to make sure that this was memorialized. So we have an if approved condition that one fully designated and signed ADA compliant parking space shall be provided on site prior to issuance of an updated certificate of occupancy, or a certificate of occupancy. It'll be an updated certificate of occupancy. With that, as I said, staff was recommending approval.
All right, thank you, Robert. Do we have anybody here in opposition to the application for 16 Blake Street? If you're here in opposition. Okay. Seeing no one in opposition, do we have anybody with the owner or applicant present? All right, Mr. Hill, I presume?
Yes.
Anything you'd like to say to the board?
Absolutely. Thank you for a great summary on the project, and thank everybody for your time. I think you gave an excellent summary. Your condition is already in mind and in design. We do have a complying ADA parking space there. We've got a complying ramp, and we have improved just regular access for there. I guess the only other thing I'd point out is that for this graphic, the existing restaurant with the outdoor space needs 13 spaces. And what we're doing, mostly because we're enclosing a waiting area, we now need 14. But as you well pointed out, it's never going to meet that number, and it's been successfully operated. So unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Hill while he's up? I don't think so. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All right, Mr. Goodwin moves to approve.
Second.
Mr. Morrison seconds the motion. You got in there a little bit before you.
With the approved conditions.
With the condition,
With conditions.
the one fully designated and signed ADA compliant parking space shall be provided on site prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy or the amended certificate of occupancy, yes. All right, we've got a motion pending. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The motion passes and the special exception is approved with the condition as read. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda, V3, 170 Wentworth Street, Charleston Village, Council District 8, TMS number 457-03-04-065, zoned STR, requesting a special exception under section 54-110F to extend the non-conforming east side setback of 1 feet 3 inches, 6 feet are required for a rear two-story addition and requesting a variance from section 54-301 to build a staircase landing with an 8-foot 6-inch west side setback, 12 feet are required. The owners are Joshua and Ashley Hughes. The applicant is Julia F. Martin Architects. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and I suppose for the record, we should indicate that Mr. Morris has needed to recuse on this item and has completed his forms and submitted those to the chair. So this is 170 Wentworth here just about mid-block between Ashley and Rutledge. On Wentworth, you can see here in the zoning map the neighboring properties, long narrow lot. Here you can see the aerial and see how the neighboring properties have been built up as existing. The proposal, it's important to note here on the Sanborn maps, again, this is not a part of the zoning component, but I thought it was important to point out because we are talking about the extension of a non-conforming side setback that as early as 1902 on the Sanborn maps, this building is shown in its essentially its existing configuration. We do know that there's been some adjustments made on the piazza, specifically on the back part of the porch. And I believe there's some notation on the plans about a additional fireplace that was added at some point. But again, it is important to note that as far back as 1902, you know, essentially the same rectangle appears on all the Sanborn maps as the footprint that currently exists within our GIS system. As you can see in the photographs of the site that the applicant provided as a part of their packet, this is a very narrow site, typical Charleston single narrow long with the side kind of side front porch piazza set up with a 1-car width driveway that accommodates both of the required cars with some backyard space as well. And there you can see in the dated photo there the chimney that was added, and you can also see up above some modifications that have occurred to the back area of the piazza over some time. All right, so you have the site plan. The proposal would create an addition that if all by itself, because it's at the essentially at the 50% mark of the existing non-conforming side, actually by code could be done as an exception, but because they have other things going on, code bumps that up to come forward to the board to be approved as a special exception. They're essentially want to move around where the kitchen and dining room are to create some more forward living space on the ground floor. And you can see here, and then create a more involved master suite on the second floor of the addition. All of this is prefaced by the fact that they're elevating this historic home so that it can be here for another 100+ years, given our needs to just try to elevate as many properties as we can, so particularly historic properties, so that they can be protected against continuing issues related to flooding. So here you can see kind of the roofing plan. They do the standard kind of hyphen to break up the historic part of the home from the addition. And then they have the addition on there in the back. You can see the elevations here, how they would kind of bring the piazza back to the standard piazza. Excuse me, without the whatever they did in the back with the partial enclosure, the owners in the past. And then how this would look. Again, this would be raised, so that's an important component. It does make it seem much more involved, I think, than the intent of the addition. But because everything is also getting raised, that brings us to the variance for the stairs. Again, this is something that we see very often, particularly with the Charleston singles, when they are raised, in order to keep the street front looking appropriate, they end up needing to do and not impacting or minimizing the impact on the historic material. We end up with a kind of courtyard stair, something like that, coming off the rear to provide that connectivity that would ordinarily have just been a kind of a breezeway pass through in the existing footprint. So for those reasons, staff is recommending approval of both the special exception and the requested variance. We do want to acknowledge that there has been quite a bit of community contact on this. We do have in your public comment packet letters of support from adjacent property owners or area property owners, as well as letters of opposition from multiple area property owners. Some that signed on to one letter, and then a separate letter that was received for additional information on or on one of the properties. So with that, as I said, staff is recommending approval of the special exception and the variance in this case.
All right, thank you, Robert. Do we have anybody who is opposed to the application for 170 Wentworth? Just raise your hand so I can see it. Okay. We'll give everybody an opportunity to speak, but first we'll hear from the owner or applicant.
Thank you, Robert, for that introduction. I'm Julia Martin, representing our clients Ashley and Joshua Hughes, the owners of 170 Wentworth Street. And we're here, as Robert explained, asking for a special exception for a rear addition in accordance with what the ordinance allows. And I believe that would typically be eligible for staff approval. But because the building's in the flood zone and needs elevation, we're also asking for that west side setback variance so we can extend the existing staircase and maintain historic circulation patterns at the north end of the piazza. At the risk of repeating things that you said, would you mind if we just went back through the drawings starting at the beginning? And I'll
Want your drawing set?
Yeah, if you don't mind. I'll go ahead and say, as is our custom, we were careful to coordinate with our clients and ensure that the potentially affected neighbors, specifically the immediate neighbors, are made aware of the proposal. And we also spoke with the preservation groups, and we appreciate the support that's been expressed. Given that the variance only pertains to the new stair at the back of the piazza, it didn't seem to warrant any further outreach, though we're always happy to talk to anyone who might want to contact us. And I believe the same goes for our clients, who are quite active and well regarded in the neighborhood. So I will try to keep this presentation brief, and then I believe Joshua would like to say a few words as well. All right, so, and I can't control this, I just have to stand next to that, right? 170 Wentworth is a historic single house built sometime around the turn of the last century. It first appears on the 1902 Sanborn maps. Next slide. All right, here are some photographs of the existing conditions, including the unfortunate cantilevered bathroom addition of the upper piazza. And I'm sorry, did you go 2 slides ahead? There we go. Including the cantilevered bathroom addition, and I'll draw your attention to the stairs at the rear of the piazza. You see this on the lower right, which we'd like to extend and maintain after the building is elevated. Our clients have lived here since 2020, And this elevation project is not undertaken lightly. Their finished floor level sits at approximately 5 feet below the current FEMA required minimum elevation. And the flooding concerns in this vicinity are well documented. Raising the structure to comply with current code requirements is the best way to protect and preserve the historic dwelling. I believe that goes without saying at this point in our city's history. Next slide, please. All right, here's some images of the streetscape and vicinity. In terms of the size of 170 Wentworth, the current square footage is 1,484. And I believe that makes it the smallest house in a fairly wide radius. Since some of the opposition appears to center on the proposed square footage, we pulled information from the county assessor's office and compiled a graphic just to convey the size of the subject property relative to the size of neighboring dwellings. So I'll pass that. The numbers that you see on that handout are the current square footages, and at 170 with the proposed addition, the total square footage would be 2,312, which is still below average for this area. And again, the addition does not require a variance. Next slide. All right, moving on to the site plan, you can see the proposed extension, which is extending in a typical Charleston way along that east side setback, as is allowed in the ordinance by that special exception. And then it steps in beyond that to meet the typical setbacks at the bay. The footprint of this addition, just for reference, is 488 square feet, and it will allow the dwelling to better accommodate a young and growing family. If we were not required to elevate the structure, staff would be able to approve this addition if they have countless times before, following the provisions set forth in the ordinance, and it would not require board review. Right on the site plan, you can also see the stair extension at the north end of the piazza here, which technically requires a west side setback as indicated. This is the only element that pertains to a variance, and it is only needed because we have to elevate the building, and the existing stairs would no longer reach grade without an extension. Typically, we very carefully articulate responses to the 4-prong hardship test, but in this case, the hardship regarding that stair seems fairly self-evident. We're required to elevate the structure, and if we don't extend the stair, we'll not meet grade. The last thing I'll note here, just for the record, is that the proposed lot coverage is 44%, and the allowable lot coverage is 50%. You can proceed with the plans, and we've already sort of explained those. So if you will stop on the elevations. All right, here are the existing and proposed elevations. We really appreciate that Ashley and Joshua were willing to sacrifice the square footage at that second floor porch enclosure in order to fully reopen both levels of the piazza. And I will go ahead and share our streetscape study, which is part of our tentative BAR submittal. I don't believe there's really any zoning issue here, but it's just to show you how the elevated structure would fit into its surroundings in case you're curious.
What is the, how high is it being raised, please?
It is 5 feet, more or less, 5 feet. All right, so about all of that. So to conclude, and then I'll hand it over to Josh. You tailor the proposed addition to comply with what the ordinance requires and allows, and no variance is required for the addition. The only item requiring a variance is the stair at the end of the piazza, which exists now, but has to be extended to grade when the building is elevated. So as I understand it, it's because of those two issues combined that we are triggered to come to the zoning board. But if we didn't have to elevate it because of flooding, then we wouldn't have to come here. And finally, I'm sure that these owners would rather not have to elevate their house. They'd rather add this allowable living space without having to go to the extremes required by FEMA and city code requirements. But thankfully, they're willing to make this investment to protect their historic home and to make it a safe, comfortable dwelling for their family and generations to come. I'll let Joshua
Ms. Martin, quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
What is the, what's going on at the ground level? I was looking at the elevation, wasn't quite sure. It looked like a open patio at the far north side.
The far end there, yes, they would like to have a place where they can just kind of sort of utilize that space since it's already raised as much as it is.
Is that double door entry into like a storage area or is that?
Yeah, none of it is, conditioned or insurable.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Yes, come on up.
Come with me or?
You can join it if you'd like, yeah.
Good evening. My name is Josh Hughes, and along with my wife are the applicant and homeowner of 170 Wentworth Street, where we lived for the past 5 years. We're proud residents of Charleston Village and active members of the community. I serve as vice president of the Charleston Village Association, and my wife chairs the Parks Committee. We care deeply about this neighborhood and work hard to preserve what makes it special. Like many young families in downtown Charleston, we face the challenge of making a historic home work for a growing family. After looking extensively for a larger home and finding a few suitable options that are not in a worse flood situation than what we have, and with our first child expected this spring, we decided to renovate and elevate our current home so that we can make this our community long-term. Over the past 5 years, we've seen floodwaters rise higher each season, both from storms and regular high tide events. Last year, water came within inches of entering our home. Elevating the structure isn't a luxury. It's a necessary step to protect and preserve the house for the future. We've also designed it carefully to minimize impacts on adjacent properties, maintaining light and air for our neighbors. We've been encouraged by strong letters of support for our direct adjacent neighbors and others in the community who recognize care and sensitivity behind this proposal. While the rear stairs have received attention, they are carefully designed and understated, placed behind the primary structure in a manner that aligns with similar homes in the area. They offer the only safe and practical way to reach the elevated home without crossing into the sidewalk on the front of the home, and they maintain the home's traditional circulation and character. We understand that not everyone agrees, but we've approached this project with respect for both the neighbors and history, with the neighborhood's history and its future. Many of our neighbors who are now empty nesters once faced similar decisions: how to adapt their homes to meet the changing needs while maintaining its character. We strive for that same balance. This proposal reflects Charleston's broad goals of resilience and preservation, allowing existing homes to adapt responsibly to environmental realities without compromising neighborhood integrity. In closing, we've worked diligently to craft a project that meets the spirit and intent of the city's regulations, addresses a genuine hardship, protecting our home and maintaining the look and feel of our block. We respectfully request the board's support for our application.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Anybody have any questions for the owner? Anybody else like to speak in support of the application? Please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
My name is Brian Leisman. Myself, and my wife, Catherine Gagnon, live at 174 Wentworth Street, so 2 down from the applicant. I just want to come up and say I fully support the project. As noted, it's one of the smaller houses on the block, and even after the addition size, it'll still be a pretty benign square footage. I believe that the renovation and the addition will be in line with the neighborhood as well. And as a young family we have, the need for more space downtown is not lost on us, and we're excited that hopefully they can find a way to make the project work for them and save the neighborhood. So thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Leisman. Anybody else who wishes to speak in support? Yes, sir. Come on up. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Will Comerford. I live at 172 Wentworth Street, directly next to Josh. Josh has been a fantastic neighbor to us in the community. He's been very well with us on the building of his plans of building his house. We support his plans for the staircase in the back, as well as lifting the house to support impacts of the environment in the area. So we are fully supportive of Josh and the project.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Come on up. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jerry Smith, and I currently live at 14 Jasper Street. Up until just less than a year ago, I lived at 166 Wentworth Street, where I did an extensive renovation on, in restoring that home and put an addition on the back, unlike what the applicant's requesting here. And I moved into that home in 2019, and I've had a number of conversations with Josh and his wife over the years with the rising water that we were facing and so forth. And in fact, I had a conversation with Mayor Tecklenburg, former Mayor, on these very four houses, because when I was putting in my application for the changes I was making at 166 Wentworth, my house was 6 feet off the ground. So I had plenty of room to not turn into anything other than an island, which I did turn into a couple of times. But it's critical that these houses are saved, and the only way to save it is to encourage the builders to be able, or the owners to be able to have a way to be able to do that. And so I just wanted to come down and offer my support to what they're asking for. I think it's totally reasonable. My house originally had the porch going down into the yard off the front door, like off the side of the center of the piazza. And it was converted to a front entrance just as they're proposing. So it's totally consistent with what's in the neighborhood. And this was already commented earlier, this is the smallest house in the block. And for a growing family, a 2-bedroom house with minimal spaces is really not necessarily representative of what people are looking for today. I can attest to that. When I sold my house, I had people who complained that I didn't have a child playroom. So I can only say, in closing, that I really encourage you to support what they're trying to do. I think where they're preserving the history of the house. And I think we need to be doing as much of that as possible for the city. I think everybody needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Anybody else who would like to speak in support of the application?
Yeah, if I could just, actually, the email that
Sure.
came in this afternoon
Yeah,
came
that's
from
fine.
someone who could have in person. It's from the adjacent neighbor to the east.
While you're doing that, can I ask Mr. Hughes or you, was there any feedback from the Charleston Village Neighborhood Association? Okay, and just for the record, this is an email from Nathan Adams, 168 Wentworth, appears to be in support of the applications. All right, anybody else who wishes to speak in support? Okay, we'll hear from anybody in opposition to the applications.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman,
Walker?
members of the board. My name is Colonel Walker, 66 Haven Street, and I'm here on behalf of Matt and Susanna Hubble, who are here, and you'll hear from them separately. They authored the letter along with 2 other property owners in opposition. I think it's important to understand they're not opposed to raising the house. They understand that. They're not opposed to having an addition of some kind. As you will hear directly from them, they believe, and I think we can show that there is an effect on them. There are 2 houses over at 166 and a half, so there's one in the middle. There are really 2 applications before you. One for a special exception to continue the non-conforming side setback, and that will require that they satisfy the test under 54-110. And 2 of the considerations, and this is an unusual one because we aren't talking about traffic, we aren't talking about parking, but 2 of those considerations are unreasonable intensification and the impact on the aesthetic character of the environment. If we go back, Robert, if you could go back to A201, which shows the side elevation.
This one.
No,
That's
the
202.
drawing A201.
There you go.
Okay.
No, A201, I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, you said 201 and I,
A201.
yeah.
There you go. You can see that what's going to happen here when they elevate the house is not only is the house going up, but they're elevating the addition, which is in 2 phases. And I think you're going to hear from the Hubbles that it's not that they're putting an addition, that it's basically not what you would see as a 2-story. It's almost 3-story given the ground, the 2 floors and the half floor of the ceiling. And they are going to be significantly affected by that. And we submit that it is not in keeping with the aesthetic environs of the neighborhood. And these three relatively small, simple single houses. So we are objecting on the grounds of an unreasonable intensification and the effect on the aesthetic environs. The second application, and they're going to speak more specifically to those. The second applications for the variance, and the variance test, which Mr. Chairman cited at the beginning, is an unnecessary hardship test. And it's not something that is just check the box. It actually requires that there be a showing of satisfaction of the four conditions. And this is new construction, and we would submit that those four conditions have not been met, that there's been no showing or effort to show that this property is different from the other properties in the neighborhood. They're unreasonable condition. Nor has there been any showing that the property cannot be reasonably used without the stairs. And you're familiar with the other two factors. Those are not shown either. And I don't think the applicant even tried to show that the hardship test was met. We understand the aesthetics of it, but the test is the test. So we'd ask that the board consider our comments and objections, and I'm going to turn it over to Matt and Susanna now, who can give you their perspective. I don't live over there. I can tell you I live on Logan Street, and they raised houses on Logan Street. It's a fact of life. So we aren't saying they shouldn't do it, but it's just the size of the location of the addition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Good evening. I'm Matt Hubble, and this is my wife, Susanna. We appreciate you hearing our concerns this evening. And we have been homeowners at 166.5 Wentworth now since 1997. We got married and bought the home and moved in. So almost 30 years ago, and Susanna even lived in the home before that. So we've done a lot of living on the block that we're talking about, and we want to talk to you about the impact upon the aesthetic character of our neighborhood and our own home. And the special and beautiful thing about our block is that we have beautiful gardens that are filled with light. They're not tiny little plots. They're really nice backyard gardens. And when you look out of our home to the west, we see beautiful views of gardens and the sky, and our house is filled with western light. And so these plans strongly impact the beauty and the aesthetic character of our block. Unfortunately, we have to strongly oppose these plans because the massive scale of this addition is something that's completely optional, and we believe excessive and disproportionate to what's needed. It's one thing to raise the house. We understand the concern about flooding. We all share those concerns. But it's a totally different matter when it comes to an optional addition on the house. And this is, as Trenton pointed out, this is not a two-story addition on the back of the house. It is a three-story with a roof. And from our perspective, looking out of our home, what we're going to see, the other side of the side view you were looking at, it is a massive, high, windowless wooden wall. And that's what we're going to see instead of gardens in the sky. And that's going to have a huge impact on the aesthetic character of the environs where we live and our home specifically. The next thing that's going to happen if this massive addition is approved on the small historic house is the next door neighbor is going to do the same thing. And at that point, we're going to have another structure that looks like a towering apartment complex just a few feet outside of our windows. So what we're saying is that we've had 30 plus years of care and intense appreciation for the special character and aesthetic beauty of our area.
And unfortunately, these plans are just over the top. And we ask that you scale them back so that they're in compliance with the ordinance that requires concern for the aesthetic character of the block. We don't want this area changed forever. The beautiful gardens and the light and the space have been carefully preserved for over 100 years. And there's no reason for this optional addition that it should be an over-the-top, excessively massive structure that will forever change the character of our beautiful neighborhood.
Mr. Hubble, I had a real quick question
Yes.
before your wife starts. If the house were not to be raised, would you have an objection? Is it the height combined or is it?
It's primarily the height.
Okay.
And so I don't think it's fair to think of this as, well, the raising
It's a flood
for the
mitigation
flood doesn't
project.
count. The comment was made, it seemed to be more intense or higher. No, it is high for us. When we look out, it's gonna block the light in the sky.
All right, I'm sorry, Ms. Hubble.
Susanna, or
I'll just back up what Matt said in the sense that the light is so essential. I'm a painter. I've painted the light and the falling through my windows many times. It is gorgeous in our home in the late afternoon. It's something we have enjoyed for 30 years and it's not something we take for granted. To turn it into tight apartment complexes, if you give this opening Pandora's box to take one house and let them fill it in so intensely, it will continue and continue. And our beautiful shared area of the back of people in Wentworth Street, it will no longer be. And the character of our neighborhood taken away. There's no way to give this extension on this scale to them without taking something directly from us. We ask you not to do it.
thank you. We also have some neighbors here who would like to speak. Ed and Molly Griffin.
Sure, we'll hear from anybody else who wishes to speak in opposition to the application. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Ed Griffin, my wife Molly is here. We actually live at 166 Wentworth. We moved there just a year ago from another part of downtown Charleston. So we've been in downtown Charleston, the peninsula, for well over 15 years. I'm here primarily because Matt and Susanna are our new neighbors, and we've had discussions with them as we've been to their house. We've seen their beautiful house, the light that comes in. She is a painter. She has artwork, all over the place, and which is part of her livelihood or hobby, whatever you want to call it. So they have a fantastic backyard, and taking a look at the addition that they're proposing, we clearly see the problem. Having nearly a 3-story building, albeit it's 2 doors down from them. There are 4 houses all adjacent, pretty much identical. I understand theirs might be the smallest one, but they're all narrow lots, Charleston single homes that are side by side. I do believe that once we open up and you give the permission for them to have a variance and to be able to build a house, the BZA has these rules for a particular reason, which is to have conformity in the neighborhood, and there needs to be hardship to be able to have an exception to changing the rules. Otherwise, what's the point? So if we look at it, I do believe that once this is granted, well, there are 3 other houses that are good, that are very, very similar, that have now opened up permission for them to do exactly the same thing. These are narrow, shallow lots that go back to back. And you're putting a lot of house on that, and the pure mass of the exterior, you're looking at an elevated house with the huge addition on the back is going to change, I think, the character of that street tremendously. So does it directly affect us? No, we're 3 houses closer to Rutledge from them, but clearly I do think that that neighborhood, we love the neighborhood, we walk it, And again, we clearly understand the reason why you need to elevate the house from flood related reasons. But I do think that the size of the overall addition, the only reason I think a variance is needed is because of this overall size. If the project were scaled back a bit and made it fit the lot without requiring a variance, then that would be fine. But it's a combination of the height, the overall mass of the, without building on the lot, it's gonna be, I think, too much. And again, there's a domino effect for every other house going over to Ashley is gonna have the same. They're gonna be in here later on after the same thing. So there is a direct effect, I think, on the Hubbles and their enjoyment of their home. So.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin.
Okay.
Appreciate your comments. Anybody else wishes to speak in opposition to the application?
Hello, thank you all for your service. Appreciate the time. I'm Thad Wilson. My wife Heather Wilson and I live at 173 Wentworth Street, which is directly across the street from the subject house. Heather, myself, and my 3 kids have lived there since 2019. I'm here to request that you reject the variance as well as the special exception. Points have already been made, but I'll just repeat a few of them. To start with, I will say that I do believe I'm impacted. I'm not impacted as an adjacent neighbor, but I'm impacted in that I'm looking at it, and contrary to some of the comments earlier, maybe slightly contrary, we had no input in this. We had no conversation with the applicant beforehand. The indication that impacted people were talked with beforehand is not the full story. We did not hear about this until it was already presented. And again, I do feel like I'm impacted. In general, we think it's too big, it's too high, it's too much. I think it's an unreasonable request for too much space and too much height. I also live with the flooding issues, but I think this is beyond what's necessary. As Attorney Walker already said, I think it's straightforward. The conditions for a variance, I don't think have been submitted. I don't think they're there. There's nothing extraordinary about these conditions. There are 4 houses together. This is common in the area. It's common across the city. The vicinity has plenty of similar conditions. The ordinance does not unreasonably restrict the use of the property. I don't think those are really in question. The best I can hear from the applicant is that after they make it bigger, higher, wider, taller, then they need stairs, and therefore that's a hardship. That's not a genuine hardship. That's not what the ordinance says. That's not required. That's not a condition that's required to meet the variance test. On the special exception, my sense is that it is an unreasonable intensification of the non-conforming use. I think of it as unreasonable because it's not necessary. You don't need this special exception to make a bigger house. They're asking for an extension of the maximum amount, 50% all the way back. It's hard for me to understand how something could be reasonable if you're asking for all of what's necessary. That does not feel like a special exception to me. The house can be bigger without the special exception. There are plenty of ways to design a bigger house without that. Points also made already, but I'll repeat them. The house will have an impact on light on adjoining properties. I realize I'm not an adjoining property, but the ordinance says if it has an impact on light and airflow on adjoining properties, that's part of your condition, your consideration for unreasonableness. I think that's obvious, straightforward, it's having that. And then to the point also made, I do think it has a negative impact on the aesthetic character of the environment. That's straightforward. It's a block that's wonderful for all kinds of reasons, including the people, but it's a collection of a lot of different houses there. A lot of houses are small, some are smaller than others. Mine has about 1,800 square feet. It's right on the street. And I've got some space in the back on an adjoining property, but it's a mixed bag of a lot of different houses. That's the character of it. That's what should be kept. There's not a need to make every house bigger. Lastly, I'll say this, as someone who has had a growing family, I've moved around a lot. I grew up in Charleston. I moved around. We need a bigger house. I don't think the need to have a bigger house for your family means you change the house, it means you move to a different location. That's what I've done. That's what people have been doing in the city forever. That's the norm. You can't change the house back to smaller when you don't need it any longer. So I appreciate the fact it's a tough housing market, but just because a growing family doesn't fit in it, that doesn't, to me, suggest you need to change the house. I'll leave it at that. Thank you. Appreciate all this work.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. All right, anybody else wishes to speak in opposition? All right, seeing no one else in opposition, would you like to rebut?
There seems to be a little confluence of the two requests that we're making. The addition itself, correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, but the addition itself would be eligible for staff approval based on the allowance in the ordinance, that you can extend an existing non-conforming setback up to 50% of the current length. Correct?
Correct. So in this case, if there was not the staircase requested coming off the back of the piazza that is encroaching into the western setback, this project as currently drawn up would be approvable at a staff level.
Correct. So just to be clear, it's not as if we're asking this board for a special favor or they're setting some new and dangerous precedent. We have followed the directives in the ordinance in terms of the elevation. I can understand that there is still some resistance and fear about the notion of elevating historic structures. I've been around long enough to remember when the BAR would say, no, absolutely not, you can't do that. But I think we've come a long way since then, and the city of Charleston now actively encourages and needs homeowners like these to pitch in and do the hard work required to preserve our historic fabric. And I don't even think we should still be debating that. This is a growing family that wants to put down roots here, and while they're undertaking the substantial task of elevating their home, it makes sense that they would go ahead and add a reasonable amount of living space to make it more habitable. The immediate neighbors have conveyed their support, and I guess I just found it hard to imagine how the stair itself would be affecting someone 2 doors down or across the street. The only variance here is regarding that stair. And if you have any other questions, I'm here. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Barton. So I thought I heard earlier that it was the height that was requiring the special exception in addition.
No, this is already, the addition is not a vertical extension of the non-conforming. It's a regular extension because the current house is already multiple stories. Again, we don't count for purposes of an elevation. We don't count any of that as a vertical extension for the non-conforming. None of that counts. You get your height, you know, basically on top of your raising, whatever that is, up to 6 feet, up to 6 feet. Want to be clear, anything over 6 feet then becomes a whole other matter, because then you get to count as a story unless it's an existing house. And then anyway, there's some nuances to it that I don't believe come into play here. So again,
the
special exception is
hold on. So the variance, if it is granted, requires an approval of a special exception?
No, so these are 2 separate matters, which is why we put them on here separately.
The special exception, if it's not required by the stairs, what is it?
So the stairs strip the need to elevate the exception. That would be a staff approval for the extension of the non-conforming.
I see.
Wet
So they
setback.
still need a special exception. They just would not.
No, they would get an exception. So again, if you knocked the stair question off of this, then the expansion that they are requesting would be a staff level exception and does not have this additional conversation about light and air and all the other stuff. There's no test. It's just written into the code that under our non-conforming, if you're 50% or less and don't have some other issue, you are approved as an exception to the setback rules as a non-conforming use. However, because in raising the structure, they need to be able to have a staircase that comes off of the back of the piazza. That staircase is within the west setback. So because they have that deviation, that moves it from just a plain exception that staff could approve for the extension of the non-conforming setback into a special exception that comes to the board to be considered. If this board were to deny the variance for the staircase, and even if you were to deny the special exception, if the applicants came back to staff for an exception, then they can do that because they would not, if they're not having other deviations, if they just say, okay, well, everybody's gonna go, that wants to go back in the house from outside has to go out to the street and up the porch and in through the front entrance instead of having the back stair, then again, they wouldn't need the staircase. They could move forward with the application at a staff level.
So they could do what they intend to do with the house if they
nix this.
got rid of the back stairs.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and so the other alternative that we've seen suggested in other cases was that, and so instead of putting the stair outside of the existing thing, that you try to do something like in the middle and bring it down, but we wouldn't want them to not break up the integrity of that piazza by trying to do that. So again, this is something traditionally staff has supported. In fact, I think under the previous zoning administrator, there were some approvals under section of the code that we don't necessarily agree on this point, but that just allowed for a stair that was related to a elevation because of FEMA to just be approved without additional consideration, because it was just kind of a necessity that you have that stair. Again,
Okay.
he and I have some conversations going back and forth, but yeah.
So at this point, they are where they are with the application that they've submitted. They
Yeah.
have to meet the variance test for the stairs, and they have to meet the special exception criteria.
Mr. Summerfield, if I may, I'm just curious about one thing. If the variants were not involved and they were pursuing this as strictly an exception, not a special exception, is that a decision that the staff could make that could be appealable back to this board? Would we still be considering that question if there was objection to it? Or
yes, if within the appeals period, if someone were to object to staff's approval, then they would appeal that approval on the building permit, and then that appeal would come to you all.
Okay, so we would still hear that issue.
Correct. And then you would appeal, but the appeal would be the staff's interpretation that it meets the exception criteria, which is that it's 50% or less of the existing length of the non-conforming side. If you wouldn't be able to apply the special exception rules to it, the question would be, did staff properly interpret the ordinance and apply it appropriately? Which again, in this context is the addition 50% or less of the existing non-conforming side that they're requesting to propose?
So that would be a purely technical question.
Okay. In my opinion, yes.
All right, so I'll go ahead and everybody knows the variance test. And the special exception language is as follows. This comes from section 54-110 of the ordinance, subsection F. The non-conforming use of a building or structure cannot be physically extended to provide more area for the non-conforming use, and the number of bedrooms in the non-conforming two-family dwelling or multifamily dwelling use cannot be increased. That doesn't apply unless the Board of Zoning Appeals zoning, after a duly advertised public hearing, finds that the extension or the increase of the non-conforming use is, number one, limited to extending or increasing the non-conforming use then in existence, And number two, would not result in an unreasonable intensification of the non-conforming use. In considering the reasonableness of the intensification of the extension or increase, the board shall consider the effect of the extension or increase on properties in the vicinity to include traffic impacts, vehicular and pedestrian safety, parking impacts, potential impacts of noise, lighting, fumes, or obstruction of airflow or light on adjoining property, impacts on the aesthetic character of the environs to include the possible need for screening. Goes on to. Yes, Ms. Barton.
Sorry. Have we also read the section that pertains specifically to this special exception where it calls for the extension as we proposed it, just so it's not again conflicted. I have it as 54.06B.
Okay. Here. I'll get there. If you got it handy, I guess. All right, exceptions aside, setback requirements in residential zones, notwithstanding the setback requirements of this chapter for residential zoning districts, a rear residential building addition may meet the same north or east side yard setback as the existing building onto which the addition is attached, provided that the length of the addition does not exceed a distance greater than 50% of the length of the existing building, and that the addition meets other applicable zoning requirements. And I guess it's that last clause that the addition meets other applicable zoning requirements that then triggers the section that I just read, which is the general special exception criteria. So a couple of thoughts. First of all, I know Mr. Walker made the point, a couple others made the point, Ms. Martin, about the variance test, and the application did not set forth how the applicant meets the variance test. Is that something that you could speak on, or is that something that you just want to rely upon?
And again, we typically do painstakingly address those.
Okay, come on now, so that you can be recorded.
Pull up that little prompt for me so I can review them.
Which prompt?
The four columns, you have to go back to the beginning, or just remind me if they are. All right. I would say, just winging it here, I usually have a lot of time to think this through, but I would say that the extraordinary and exceptional conditions are relative to the variance that we're requesting, are the fact that we are required to elevate this to protect the property from current flood risks, and that there is a historic circulation pattern, which includes an exit at the rear of the piazza, and we would like to maintain that. These conditions do not generally apply. Those specific ones might not generally apply, but I'll be honest that many of the conditions we're contending with do apply to other properties in the vicinity by virtue of the citywide concerns about flooding and having to figure out these difficult challenges. The application of the ordinance, this particular piece of property would effectively prohibit it. I would say in that regard, if we were to return to staff with a proposal that was purely in line with that special exception and eliminate the stairs, we would not be here and there would not be a question. But I think it is unreasonable to rob these owners of the option to walk to their backyard from the inside of their elevated house. And the authorization will not be a substantial detriment. Again, the only person who could arguably be affected by these stairs is the neighbor to the west who has expressed support. We've also got support from the neighbor to the east and the neighbor 2 doors down to the west and various others. So I guess if these stairs are somehow affecting other neighbors, I would really like for someone to explain how that is. So that was my address.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. I will note also, we do have an attorney for the city here. I know that we've got some overlapping and interesting legal issues. So if anybody felt like they wanted to discuss or receive legal advice from counsel, we have that opportunity available to us. Okay, you want to move that we go into executive session to discuss with the city attorney? All right, we've got a motion from Ms. Richards to go into executive session. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Bennett seconds the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. We're going to recess into executive session to receive legal advice. We'll be back shortly. Thank you.
All right, keep the clock running and. Not more than enough.
This is item 1.
Yeah.
I think it's 4 plus variant.
Yeah.
Do it. Right. So, okay, maybe that train is set up station. Little bit. So you're out. Yeah. Yes. Were you here for one of the items?
By 11:30 is slow.
Yeah.
The house that you bought.
That's all right.
Yeah. What neighborhood is that?
Yeah. Sure.
So there are
Oh, it's seven, yeah. Nothing else.
I mean, the good thing is that we can have a trade of hazel. And all of that. The sky covers it.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, thank you for.
We go because we lived in a neighborhood for a long time, your neighbor. I was born and raised there, so.
There aren't many.
No. But, they're great, there's a largest club. River takes out these properties right now.
Yeah, they bring back big jokes.
Come on, that we're down the road, we're the only ones out there down the road. Yeah.
So I. No.
Oh, yeah, same behind my house. Oh, I passed it over behind mine, not the right. Yeah. And South Florida, just have the dog.
This floor plan here, you barely think so. You get back in.
So it's like, actually.
They were on. To rebuild it.
Yeah.
So they also. So I guess it's just.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So. Oh, yeah. Hold on.
Yeah.
Just like.
Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, yeah.
They get that.
Right, but you go ahead.
Yeah.
They're probably. I wasn't sure, because we've got storage, you know, sure, like, look at them right there. We're gonna have our storage. Yeah, every month, they're saying, oh, we're not. I can't. July. Like, now, that's all. So it's very. Right? No? They count you, I guess, right? Oh, yeah. I heard you, I should figure it out.
Correct. So.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just for the record, to make it clear that no decision
I
was
was
made.
gonna wait
Okay.
until we get out of executive session to do that, yeah. So we got, Mr. Goodwin, moved for come out of executive session. Ms. Richards seconded the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. for the record, no decision was made, no action was taken. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
So now we're back here to make a decision on the application, and we may have discussion, so. Anybody have any thoughts?
I think, yeah, I've got a couple thoughts. I'm looking through at the initially the special exception. I think that's the first part to consider here. And I'm having a hard time seeing a way around the impact on airflow and light on adjoining property. And in addition, the impact on aesthetic character of the environs. I think all of these are issues that I'm not entirely sure that the extension of the non-conforming use side setback would be able to get around.
Any other comments or thoughts? Richards?
I agree. I do think it was clear that there was an unreasonable intensification and there was effect on the neighboring properties, light, airspace, etc. Even though it is down, it is still affecting the character of the entire neighborhood and the surrounding houses on all sides.
I'll just make a brief comment. I mean, this is a weird one because we are in a situation where the exception could apply, but for the staircase but for that last sentence, it could be a staff approved exception. And the fact that all other aspects of the property are not in zoning conformity due to the request for the variance for the stairs throws us into this section that we have to apply. And we have to look at the criteria for that. And so I'm not sure that we've ever dealt with this kind of situation. I know there's opposition to it and that we may continue to face opposition after this evening, see. But it's a tricky one.
Mr. Chair, I'll point out too, I think there may yet still be a path forward on the basis of not a special exception, but a regular exception, or at the city or at the staff level. I'm prepared to make a motion to deny the special exception for 170 Wentworth Street.
Okay, so we're going to take these separately and we're going to talk about the special exception first, and then we'll deal with the variance after that. So we've got a motion pending to deny the special exception. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Ms. Richards seconds that motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The special exception is denied. Now, I have a question for the applicant. Do you, we don't have to vote on the variance if you or your clients want flexibility in terms of choices and options on moving forward. So you could choose to withdraw or defer the variance question.
Like to get one clarification. I mentioned it before, but again, if we were to simply eliminate the state.
Oh, sorry, Robert's pointing at the mic.
Pretty clear.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If we were simply to eliminate the stair, as was mentioned earlier, we would have the avenue of coming to staff and getting an approval based on the allowance in 54-306C. Correct. And that would be a given. So,
Withdraw, I think is
okay.
based on your question and based on what the chairman was basically suggesting our options. My recommendation to you, Mr. Chairman, through you to the applicant would be withdraw this application at this time as you work through whatever additional steps may need to be worked through. You can always bring a request back before the board, but at this time, it would seem like withdrawal of this application would be the appropriate step
All right,
from your perspective.
we'll do that.
Okay.
Request that we withdraw.
Okay, so the variance is withdrawn, and that's confirmed. So just to recap, the application for the special exception for 170 Wentworth Street is denied, and the variance is withdrawn, and I wish everybody the best of luck going forward. Thank you. Oh, Mr. Morrison, you didn't leave permanently?
Did you go get a sandwich?
Did you go have
from the
dinner?
Dinner upstairs?
Sitting
Really?
there and having to listen and not being able to say anything. I'm not doing good. I'm not accusing anyone. Oh.
Yeah.
All right,
I had a nice chat with you, huh?
I think we've got a fresh room here. All right, so we're gonna move on. The next application on our agenda is B4 128 Cannon Street, Cannonboro, Elliottboro, Council District 6. TMS number 460-11-04-158, zoned LB. Requesting to amend density variance dated July 18, 2023 by changing the approval from a duplex to a 2-1-family detached dwelling. The owner is Harrison Malpass. The applicant is Ashley Jennings. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, so you can see the property here mid-block on Cannon, west of Ashley Avenue. So the existing structure or the structure that existed previously, you can see here in the aerial, was one single structure. And as it was brought forward to the board, it was approved to be a duplex essentially. As that was a couple years ago though now, and in continuing to work on the property, the applicant is now requesting that instead of having the duplex, which is basically again 2 families, 1 building, 2 single family homes essentially attached by a wall, or Charleston, we do floors with up and downstairs, that they would instead propose to do a second unit on the property and have 2 detached single family homes on this lot instead. Because that does change the configuration and the nature of the prior approval on this, they did need to come back to amend that variance that was received in July of 2023, so that the board could hold a public hearing and see if there was any opposition to the change in configuration. To be clear, action tonight, if it were denied, that would not deny the ability for this to still be 2 single family dwellings on this property. They would just revert back to the prior approval where it is as a duplex and not as 2 separate dwelling unit, completely separate dwelling units. So just want to be clear, action tonight would not change the intensity in terms of the number of families that would occupy the lot. It would just restrict them to their current approval, which is to do it as a duplex scenario instead of 2 separate buildings. With that, you have the information from July 2023 there. And with that, staff is recommending approval of this change in configuration for this proposed development.
All right, thank you, Robert. Do we have anybody here who is opposed to the application for 128 Cannon Street? Anybody here opposed? All right, seeing no one opposed, do we have the owner or applicant here? That's all, Ms. Jennings. Yeah, anything you'd like to say?
Nothing.
Okay, are we ready to vote? If I have a motion.
Move approval.
All right, Mr. Bennett moves to approve. Mr. Richards seconds the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The motion passes. And the amendment to the density variance is approved, changing the approval from a duplex to 2 one-family detached dwellings. Thank you, Ms. Jennings. All right, the next item on our agenda, B5. 1411 Rivers Cotton Road, James Island, Council District 12. PMS number 428-00-00-344. Zoned SR1, requesting a variance from section 54-301 to enclose a screen porch with a rear setback of 16 feet 4 inches, 25 feet are required. The owner applicant, Aaron and Chase Edwards. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so this is a property at the corner of Rivers Cotton Road and Captain Rivers Drive. As you can see here, corner lot, you can see the aerial here of this community. You can see the porch kind of in that back in the shadow there. Different angle so that you can see that screen porch there on the corner. Site plan shows the existing screen porch there at the corner. And what they're proposing to do is enclose that so that they can make a playroom that is kind of almost an extension of kind of the great room situation they have with the dining and the living area. And they have an additional addition that they're proposing as a part of their overall development plan that is not a part of no deviations are resulting from that. So there's not a any additional request before the board relative to that portion of the request. You can see here some photos that they supplied of the existing screen porch here on the site. And then they do have a text message from the neighboring property that would be to their rear. This is to the side of their house, I believe, based on the, yeah. So this is the neighbor at Captain Rivers Drive, I believe, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And so again, this is a existing under the roof area of the lot. They're not expanding the footprint, lot coverage with this request. Obviously, they are increasing lot coverage with the addition that they're proposing in the side yard. But as far as this goes, again, this is existing footprint. They're not extending that outwards any, they're just enclosing that space to improve their interior living situation. The most closely affected neighbor would be that neighbor behind, and they have indicated their support. And so staff is recommending approval of this request. The hardship being, again, the nature of these lots doesn't really provide an area for them to do much of an addition that besides the little bit that they're doing on the side yard. And honestly, if they were to do any kind of change, I think screening or walling in the screen porch versus doing a much larger expansion within the building envelope that they have here on this corner side would be more of a character neighborhood break than a request to which they'd be able to do as they're doing already. They would be able to, under code, be able to increase the living area out this way if they wished to. But I think this is a more in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. It's under existing roof, and so staff is recommending approval of this variance.
Thank you, Robert. 1411 Rivers Cotton Road. Anybody have an objection? What's going on there? Anybody wants to object to enclosing a screen porch today? Okay. Any discussion? Ready to vote? All right, Ms. Richards moves to approve. Mr. Goodwin seconds the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The motion passes. And the variance for 1411 Rivers Cotton Road is granted. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, next item on our agenda, Number 6, B6, 10 Jamaica Drive, South Windermere, Council District 11. TMS number 421-05-00-081, zone SR1, requesting a variance from section 54-301 to build a rear addition with a 19-foot, 3-inch rear setback, 25 feet are required. The owner is Suzanne Castle Glover. The applicants are Suzanne Castle Glover and William Ryan Glover, Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, again, just to note for the record that member Bennett has had to recuse on this item and has left the room for discussion. So this property is on Jamaica Drive. Here you can see it's immediately bordered on the front, or I'm sorry, the sides and the rear with properties all adjacent on Jamaica Drive, as well as properties on Lord Ashley. Here you can see the aerial of the property. This is a very square lot. Again, normally we would see lots that are more rectangular with a deeper lot than width, but this is actually pretty square here. You can see the proposed site plan here. They do have an existing tree. We're going to talk about that in a moment as well. They are proposing the new screen porch over here, and then they are proposing the addition over here with a slight portion of that would encroach into the rear setback. Again, this is a somewhat unique situation with how squared off the lot is and the fact that you have a 25-foot front and rear setback. It really does narrow down the available area. And then when you try to provide adequate space for this, I believe it's a grand tree or protected tree.
Yes.
Did we determine? Okay, it's a grand and protected tree. Okay, so provide adequate space for this tree canopy and what have you. It really does then further narrow down the opportunities for any additional space on this site. So again, they are doing some a couple different things on here. They are adding this master bedroom and the screen porch, and they're creating a kind of a little courtyard thing, which will, with the tree canopy and over it, seems like that would be a very nice addition to the property. They do have letters of support from 11 Lord Ashley, 13 Lord Ashley, as well as 13 Jamaica Drive, and the resident at 8 Jamaica Drive. So when you go back to our map, they do have from a neighbor across the street, an immediate neighbor here at 8 Jamaica, as well as the neighbor on the rear that's immediately impacted with the encroachment into the rear setback at 13 Lord Ashley, as well as another neighbor that's to the rear at 11 Lord Ashley. So they have covered most of their bases there for the proposal, and you can see letters of support there. So we have broken this request into 2 aspects from a staff perspective. For the variance to build the rear addition, so this would be the bedroom addition that would have that encroachment. Staff is recommending approval, fully see what they're trying to do there and why. However, the encroachment that they need on the other aspect of this rear request is for the outdoor fireplace addition, not necessarily for the porch itself. Consistent with other requests to put outdoor fireplaces within setback areas, staff has to make the finding that that there isn't a hardship for that. And so we would recommend denial for that. Because of the tree and the considerations for the tree, we do have 3 if approved conditions. that we worked with the folks on our BZA site design team on. They are as follows: that the 24-inch oak tree shown on the site plan must be field verified by zoning for size and species prior to building permit issuance, just so that we can make sure what that tree protection zone is. That the rear bedroom addition and rear screen porch addition must be staked out on the property and reviewed by zoning prior to the building permit addition. Again, so we can see where potential intrusions might be, specifically when looking at that screen porch. And then that the tree preservation plan from a certified arborist may be necessary pending additional coordination with zoning. So that one's more an advisory condition than the other two, which are action items. If this board were to approve these variances this evening, that would be staff's, if approved, request.
All right, thank you, Robert. Mr. Morrison.
I don't understand from the presentation of the two. First thing I don't understand is your conditions on approval. Are those for any approval or both approvals or one of the two?
They are for both approvals. So this tree, we want to verify what the canopy is. what
Follow
the
that.
tree protection-
Which of the two additions, proposed additions on the back intrudes into the tree line? What is being built there?
Matt, I'm gonna look to you. I believe these conditions would be asked for both, because based on the
And the
available.
drawing, only one of the two goes under the drip line, the other does not.
Correct, but we're not entirely positive on the
Dimensions.
dimensionality of that, so that's why we're requesting to be able to field verify for that, or
And-
both,
And so which
essentially for
of the
both.
two is the outdoor patio area?
The area that would be most under the tree canopy on this drawing, so this is the new screened porch that they would be requesting. And then this would be the new bedroom, of which the variance is for this part.
And so you're recommending against the variance for the outdoor patio?
No, so they.
The fireplace area, I think, is attached to the bedroom. Is that?
No, the fireplace is
No.
attached to the, so
The
there's the,
porch.
yeah, trying to get to, here you go. So they've got this outdoor fireplace. That is a structural element that that is encroaching. The actual porch itself is not of issue for purposes of the variance. It is the fact that you have this fireplace that becomes an addition. So that's not a part, that's not a porch, that's an addition. This is also appears to be an encroachment within that setback area. So staff is recommending approval of the bedroom addition and that slight encroachment there. But again, consistent with other reviews that we've done where we've seen fireplaces being requested on porches that are in setback areas, we would not recommend for that.
If they take out the fireplace and the chimney,
Then
the size of that addition
That
shows
need a
a
variance.
substantial intrusion under the tree line. Would you be recommending for or against it or what?
it wouldn't be, that wouldn't be a question because that's within the building envelope. So they'd be able to do that.
They can build the screen porch without a variance.
Correct.
It's just the fireplace and the chimney create a
Without
variance.
regard to the tree issues?
At permitting, we would get into it with them about any tree issues and then determine if there was additional things that needed to be done related to the tree. So it wouldn't be, here, we're kind of getting ahead of that by conditioning.
I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, so the tree issue on the enclosed or the screened patio would come up at permitting.
Right.
Absent the chimney. The only reason that part is a question for us today is because of the request to have the chimney element.
Okay.
Or fireplace element.
All right. Now that that's all straight. Do we have anybody here in opposition to the application for 10 Jamaica Drive?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're in opposition, hold on.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're
for it, yeah.
You're for it, okay. Anybody else in opposition? Seeing no one in opposition, would you like to speak, sir?
No, I think you've.
Oh, we need to hear from the owner applicant first, I guess. Do we have the owner?
Yes, okay.
Yeah, so I'm William Ryan Glover, my wife Suzanne.
Okay.
To pick up her daughter.
There we go.
So good evening, thank you.
Thank you.
Completely understand the denial of the fireplace, the tree structure there. It is important to note too, it's a water oak that was kind of smushed in a better, lack of a better way to explain it, by some sweet gum trees. So the canopy is really, when you come out and see it, it's a canopy's kind of really messed up on it, just from the crowding of the sweet gum trees. So with that, I completely understand though the removal of the fireplace. I appreciate consideration for this.
Okay, so everything, what about the other conditions? Do you have any issues with those, or are we okay with those?
As far as the
tree preservation, we got a field verified on the 24-inch oak tree. Take out the bedroom addition and rear screen porch addition and reviewed by zoning, and then a preservation plan. You got a problem with any of those, Mr. Glover? Okay. I'm just checking. I just wanted to be sure. Makes the vote a little bit easier if you agree with the conditions. Thank you, Mr. Glover.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, anybody have any questions, comments, discussion?
I move follow the city's recommendation, approval in parts, denial in part with all the conditions.
Fair enough. I understand your motion. Motion is to approve the variance for the rear bedroom addition, to deny the variance for the outdoor fireplace addition, and for the 3 conditions outlined in staff's recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. Goodwin seconds the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The motion passes, and the variance for 10 Jamaica Drive is granted for the bedroom addition, not for the fireplace addition, and pursuant to the conditions as outlined in the staff recommendation. Thank you, sir. Mr. Glover, have a good night. All right. Next item on our agenda, B7, 226 Port Tack Drive, Payne Hoy Council District 1. PMS number 269-04-01-033, zone PUD. Requesting a variance from section 4 of the Wando Village PUD to allow a deck with a 2-foot 8-inch rear setback. 15 feet are required. The owner applicant, Leslie and Frank Messina. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so you may recall this property, we did have this before you not terribly long ago, as we had an issue with the pool and exactly where that was, and an elevated element of it because of the slope of the property. We were able to resolve that here at the board, and the board would give that approval. At this time, though, the applicants had requested to add some decking around the pool. That decking around the pool was not a part of the original contemplation of what had previously been approved or previously been before the board. And so that's why they're back before you this evening. Again, you can see the site plan here, or the survey rather. You can see additionally the lot information. Here is a sketch of how the decking would be on the back of the pool, or this is to the side of the pool, not, yeah, it would be to the side, not further back, but still within setback areas as identified in the header. They do have a letter of approval for the proposed decking from their architectural review committee for the Wando Village association that manages the PUD, the homeowners association. Staff, like I said, the staff and the board did recommend approval of the variance for the pool situation. However, again, the decking is new. It is a different story. Decking is not a requirement. We weren't able to get to the hardship. I've spoken with the applicants about that. But they felt it's a necessary component of what they've been trying to achieve. And so they come before the board to ask to be able to include this element with the pool that the board had already previously approved. So with that, staff has recommended denial, but the applicants are here to talk to you about why they think it should be approved.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Do we have anybody here in opposition to the application for 226 Fort Tax Drive? Anybody in opposition? Seeing no one in opposition, do we have the owner or applicant ready to talk with us? Yes, come on up and tell us why we ought to grant the variance for your deck.
Just put together a package if the board could consider a few pages we have here. So I understand,
Sir?
yeah, I understand that this board reviewed a similar matter on your August 25th agenda, that your decision was that it was deferred. I just want to state where in the applicant, I read through the minutes, where in the applicant had approval for a pool similar to the size of our pool with the spa, and then came before the board with an application to put an entire cement border patio around the pool, including a fire pit and whatnot.
What do we do with that one?
It was deferred, and you asked that the homeowner work with the city to limit what was needed as to just maintain the structural integrity of the pool. So, just looking at page 1, I took a couple of pictures here for you. That is our completed project, finally. And behind the pool area is all woods. So we're talking about the rear setback here. There are no houses behind us. Moving on to page 2, that's the area where we would like to have a deck that just extends out from that side of the pool. We would not be here, I think I correct Mr. Summerfield, that we would not need a variance for this if there wasn't a slight elevation.
Correct.
So it would be 9, even with the ground on the closest end, and 19 inches out of the ground on the furthest end. Other than that, there would be no railings, no awnings, just a flat deck, not in cement, made out of, we decided, I think, trucks.
Be 10 feet from the pool.
And there would be no retaining wall, no cement retaining wall. There would be footings, cement footings in the ground, level with the ground, that would support the deck. As to page 3, with those photographs, Wando Village, I believe, has a 9-foot setback for a side yard requirement. We have 25 feet from the fence to the edge of the pool, of which we're looking to expand go out 10 feet for the deck. So that still leaves 15 feet from the deck to the side to our neighbor's property. So that's substantially more than the 9 feet. However, the deck going back moves into the 15-foot setback, and we're looking for a 19-inch elevation. Otherwise, we have a deck that's going to slant down 19 inches. And the last page is just a picture of similar to what we're looking for. Again, the deck would be flat to the ground, other than the 19 inches, which would be level with the pool on that end. The purpose is simply just to be able to set some lounge chairs out there and a couple of planters. So again, our position would be there's still 15 feet from the edge of the deck to our side neighbor's property. The reasons why we need the variance is there's 6 houses on Fort Tack Drive. Our house is the last house before the corner. It was the model house. For whatever reason, that house was set back further from the roadway. So having it set back further from the roadway gave us less of a backyard, more of a driveway, but less of a backyard. So that's why our total backyard is 18 feet. We don't have a whole lot to work with. Within the
Actually, in one of the other pictures that shows the 5 houses, you can see that ours is set all the way back.
So that is
And it
the,
encroaches into the setback then.
I mean, we're not looking to do anything massive, anything in concrete, no pavers, just something very natural to blend,
Freestanding, even with the.
to blend in with the woods behind it and just.
Yeah.
Just a spot where we can put 4 lounge
Yeah, you can
chairs.
see our house is all the way on the right. You see how it's pushed all the way back, and so there's not a lot of backyard there. And so most of the backyard is in the setback
It's in
area.
the setback.
And
All right, I got 4 questions for you. And I
Sure.
don't want to interrupt you if you've got more to present, but
No,
Um,
thank you.
first question is, do you say all the 6 lots back up to wooded swamp?
Yeah.
Swampy area where there's critic line and associated buffer?
Right.
You're not asking to intrude upon either of those, either
No.
the protective buffer or the OCR.
Absolutely.
All right, that's the first question.
Yeah.
Number 2,
That's off the property.
I'm looking at number 2 on your binder here.
Yeah.
What is this measurement intended to depict on the?
Oh, that,
bottom?
number 2, it's the height between the ground and the top of the pool. And
Okay.
There it's 19 inches.
So
All right.
that's the
So-
height, that would be the deck at the highest
So
point.
that's how high you're gonna build
The
it.
pool itself is at ground level on one side and it raises to 19 inches because of the sloped ground.
Okay,
And that's the limit to the deck that we'd be putting in.
I got it.
Same height.
So if it was ground level, we wouldn't.
You wouldn't be
standing
here.
Before you, yeah.
Okay.
So we're looking to 19 feet on the end, which is. 5
Inches.
19 inches.
19 inches,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
All right, page 3, we got a measurement between the fence and the edge of the pool of looks like
20,
25
29,
feet.
8.5, something
no,
like
it's
that.
20, look a little bit more of the black, it's 25.
Okay,
And that's to the fence, so it'd be another 3 inches of property with fences, so it's about.
Oh, I got you.
25
I
feet.
see.
25 feet from the pool to the
Okay.
fence.
and that distance is important because,
Well, the side setback is 9 feet.
okay,
So if you subtracted the 10 feet for the pool from the 25 feet, you've still got 15 feet of side yard.
to work with there.
Which is more than is
So
necessary.
you're showing that you're gonna meet the side setback without
Absolutely.
problems, okay.
And
And then the final issue is number 4, just a concept drawing, is that what's
Yeah,
it look like?
Just a off the web, similar to.
All right, you've answered my questions. I don't know if the board members have any other questions for you.
One for Mr. Summerfield, and what would be the sort of the, surely any deck, would it be, its construction is gonna have to be above ground on some portion just because of the nature of construction, but I'm curious what that limit is. I mean, is it 6 inches, 10 inches, 12 inches?
I wanna say that it's 6 inches, but I don't quote me on that. Yes, it becomes a structure once it's connected to the ground and built up. I think we give a grace of 6 inches, it may be a foot. Again, this is just like with the pool situation, it is a very small deviation, it's just a deck is a nice to have, not a gotta have by most measures, but we understand where the applicants are coming from.
I think it was easily regrade that section of soil, up
I
6
mean,
and 8 inches.
right.
Easily might be the wrong word, but yes, they could regrade it.
Typically, if we
But
graded it,
they've got good drainage where it should be into the critical areas.
As a matter of fact,
I
it
don't-
made some of that degrade, since the pool, since the bottom of the deck has to be a little bit below, some of that grading may happen and the 19 inches may go down to 7 or 8 inches, so it's you know.
Anybody else have any questions?
And again, we did receive HOA approval, and our HOA is not necessarily easy to deal with. And it's not affecting our neighbor, our side yard neighbor.
Right.
My position is because there's still 15 feet. And those houses on the right side, the lot numbers there, those are their backyards. The end of their backyard is against our side yard, but that's not the side the deck would be on anyway, so.
Okay, and I should ask, just, is there anybody else who wishes to speak in support of this application? I'm not sure that there is, but I have to ask. I don't see anybody. Are we ready to vote or make a motion, or we need further discussion on this?
I can move.
Yes, okay, then moves to approve. Mr. Morrison seconds the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The motion passes. And the variance for the pool deck is 226 Quarterback Drive is approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time and your service to the city.
Thank you.
Somersville.
Thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is V8 153 Pham Hill Trail, Cainhoy, Council District 1, PMS number 269-00-00-027, zoned SR1, requested a variance from section 54-347.1 to build a one-family detached dwelling within the 10-foot building setback line from the BCM critical area buffer. The owner is Bluffview Farms LLC. The applicant is William Cox. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so you can see the property here on the zoning map. This makes it seem like this is an absolutely huge property, and why would it need to build within the building setback to the BCM critical buffer? Here you can see, hopefully you can see on the aerial though, that a large swath of this property is actually covered by utility easements because there is substantial power lines that run right through this property. And what's not covered by power lines actually has a pretty decent amount of tree coverage. So you can see that this is a historic home. It's been on this site and in this location for I can't remember, we dated it 50s applicant, maybe 40s. Yeah, I mean it's not new, it's not a new build, it's not new construction. And so they're proposing to put it's a completely new house, right? Like it's a rebuild, but maintaining the same location. Obviously now we have the requirements for the buffer, we have the setback, and so you can see here how the house would intrude not into the buffer but into the building setback to the buffer, basically that full 10 feet. We can also see, again, they're kind of trying to thread a needle by maintaining the existing kind of area where the existing house or the older home had been, trying to keep the trees that are on site there. Again, the site, while large, is heavily impacted by utility easements because of the fact that it is on the marsh. Obviously, the house has to be elevated. They are proposing essentially a 1.5 story over elevated ground level. Again, you can kind of see they're maintaining just that area east of the power utility corridor. You can see the floor plan that they're proposing for the property, roof plan, elevations. Again, this is a location, this is just a tough spot to do a rebuild in, maintain the trees. Again, you can see the house, it was not a little cottage, it was a house of some level of substance in terms of the area that it had under roof. They did a property line adjustment earlier this year. And so again, they're requesting this variance to build this one family detached dwelling that would intrude essentially the full 10 feet of or that one corner or the building setback line to the critical area buffer. Staff is recommending approval. We do feel like this is a highly irregularly shaped lot circumstance. With the power easement, the existing home footprint, trying to maintain that, trying to maintain the tree canopy, address sensitivity to the marsh, which feels weird to say when you're building in the setback buffer, but I do believe that they are doing that because of the location and size. It does not in any way, shape, or form appear that it would affect the character of the community or the area. It is a lot that is completely different than everything else in the area. And then it is also,
Carved up by the easements.
it's carved up by the easement, so without this approval, I'm not quite sure. Again, they're replacing an existing structure. By today's standards, they have to do the elevation, they have to do those things. So, by not approving this, I feel like we would be, our applying strict standard would be create an unreasonableness for their ability to continue to have a dwelling on this property.
All right,
Staff is recommending approval.
thank you, Robert. Does anybody have any opposition to the application for 153 Fan Hill Trail? All right, seeing no one in opposition, owner applicant, anything you'd like to say to the board?
Say something, you drove all the way from Edisto to be here for this wonderful entertaining evening, and so you gotta at least say something after all that.
My grandson's in a ball game right across the river today.
Oh,
I'm Bill Cox, my wife, Emily, and my daughter, Kim. So she drew a picture, she had some pictures printed, of the property here. This is facing from the river back. And you can see where they have the current layout now. And these are some of the big oak trees. If you're looking at it toward the river, there's actually 31 oak trees on the property. And about half of them are these grand oaks. So when we had the house designed, I was intending to put it in the same footprint as the old house, so we built it at almost the exact dimensions as the old house. So when we got around to, I'm not an expert on zoning and all that, but when we got around to placing it, I was too close to the big oak tree. So we just simply moved it over 10 feet to get out of the exclusion area from the big oak tree right here. And well, I wasn't aware of the 10-foot additional setback and from the critical zone. So I didn't become aware of that until we filed, I guess, for the footprint.
Yeah.
So we had the survey done and I can't move it in front of the tree. Well, there was a rendering that I could, but that put the house facing the back of the boatyard, dry stack and stuff. So what we're requesting is that we simply approve the variance as it was presented.
Mr. Cox, you recognize, I don't know whether or not there will be any insurance issues or any insurability issues for building in that zone. I assume you assume whatever risk there may be of that.
I'm sorry.
There may be flood insurance or other kinds of hazard insurance for the home that may be impacted by the fact that you're building partially in that.
Actually, I'm still in the X zone.
Okay.
As I sit right there.
Oh, you're in the X zone even though you're
Yes,
into
sir.
that?
Even when I'm,
ECM
as long
buffer?
as I'm out of the critical buffer.
Well, I'm glad you said that because that makes me feel even better about your application.
So the footprint, because it's a 16-inch blocks, the outside of the the foundation on the outside of the house to the under the piers goes down roughly 30 inches. So I'm not worried about any roots going under the house. And in addition, when we took the demolition of the old house, we didn't see any evidence of any roots under the house when we pulled up the slab for the carport.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Cox while he's up here?
And again, for the record, I did want to point out that the footprint for the old house, you can see it underlaid here. It was very much within what would now be that building setback to the critical line buffer zone. So again, what they're requesting, while it is moved a little bit to accommodate the tree protection zone, because that tree grew over time when the house was there. It does push the house a little bit this way within that zone, but the previous house was well within the zone for probably, I would imagine if you actually did a proportional study, maybe not 100%, but maybe 85-90% similar amount of area to what is being proposed.
Well, I normally do not support anything in the buffer zone, but this is such a unique property and it is affected by not only the trees, but the easements as well, and the fact that they're in an X flood zone because they're high up on a bluff. I mean, this is an exception to my rule, I think, but y'all.
Move approval.
Yeah, second, Mr. Morrison. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. Motion passes.
Thank you. Well, one comment I'd like to make is, right before I left, I got an email. It was mailed late yesterday afternoon that said that a variance had been approved, and that if I would just send $4,900 for the approval fee, everything would be fine. That was one of those .USA something emails that y'all have on your website. That worked out for them.
No, I got that 49.
Spammers.
Thank
Thank you, Mr. Cox. You take care.
We wish our fees were that way. We would have state-of-the-art planning department if we actually were. Yeah.
All right, we're moving right along. Thank y'all. Thank you. Have a good night. Now we're at B9, 2 Riverside Drive, Wagner Terrace, Council District 6, TMS number 463-07-02-059, zoned SR2, requesting a variance from section 54-317 to provide no on-site parking. 1 space is required. Requesting variances from section 54-301 to build 2 front porches, 5 feet and 4 inches and 9 feet and 6 inches from the front street line. 10 feet are required pursuant to section 54-506D, and to build a deck with a 13-foot 9-inch front setback, 25 feet are required, and 13-foot 2-inch rear setback, 25 feet are required. The owner is Allison Brow. The applicant is Palmetto Craftsman. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and just for the record, member Richards has recused herself on this one and has stepped away from the meeting for the duration of the hearing. So this property is right at the corner of Riverside Drive and Sam's Susie, thank you, Street. And so again, this is one of those situations where Charleston is somewhat unique in that wherever we address your house, we determine that that's your front. And so this property, as noted on the application, is to Riverside. And so since it's addressed from Riverside, we treat Riverside as the front yard or the front side. And so given the narrowness of the lot, what that means is that, well, everything on this lot is non-conforming or doesn't meet setback, essentially because the lot is only, and we'll get there in a second, the lot is only, it is. Well, it's 55 feet at this point, but like it does narrow. So you can see here on the site plan that they provided, like we do have this situation where you create almost this hourglass. In fact, I think at one point the setbacks actually swap. So you actually have the rear setback going more forward than the front setback, and the front setback going more rear. It is a very unique lot situation with the way that this lot was configured and approved in terms of rear yard and front yard. So that does create some unique circumstances. Additionally, one of the things that makes this site, and part of the reason why we have the variance the way we do for the parking, or did we do it? Yeah, the variance for the parking is because this site, the driveway on site, on the actual property is insufficient to accommodate a second vehicle, and they had a one-car garage. So this site is actually non-conforming to allow for essentially one parking space, which is why they have a variance to remove that one parking space. That said, it's a technical removal of that one parking space because the reality is, and when we did check with our engineering division on this, that the driveway that they have there that includes coverage into the right of way is sufficient and is not expected, Riverside is not expected to widen anytime soon. So is sufficient with the existing driveway that will be left with the modifications that they're proposing and the area of driveway that is within the remnant right of way, that they still will be able to park in front of the house. They just, it's not on site, so that's why that variance is there. So there still will be parking at this site. It just will not be on site as we traditionally call that. So again, you can kind of see the site in connection with other properties in the area. You can see how other properties that are kind of in that line along San Souci have a much different configuration and are much deeper in terms of their ability to have driveways and things like that. Some other photos that were provided by the applicant, and so you can see some rendering here of what this would look like with the enclosure of the garage to help facilitate the new sun porch, and then a new porch that's being requested on the front of the house. You can see their proposed site plan again with the enclosure here. This new sunroom porch aspect here. Again, because porches have a built-in exception to allow for a level of encroachment. That's why you have the additional notation about 54506D. Correct. So I'm looking to my team to just make sure I'm not messing up the code references. You can see the floor plan. So again, they're proposing to convert that garage. Part of that would be a part of the sunroom, but also for them to be able to extend their modify and move their kitchen to create additional living space and flow within the home. And you can see here the rendering, the impacted part on this front, which would be this western elevation. So they'll have a new kind of little porch, patio entrance to the sunroom where the existing garage is, and then where they have kind of a stooped porch or step. Right now for the front door, they would build a more formal front porch, and then they have some porching and decking off the rear as well. Again, this is a very oddly shaped location. The request they're making because of the fact that you can park, but it's not technically on site. They have these exceptions that exist. We find that the construction that they're requesting is not out of character with the community. They do have some site irregularities with the way that this property was deemed for frontage, and the way you essentially could not do anything without affecting those front and or rear setbacks. And so with that, staff is recommending approval of these requests.
All right, thank you, Robert. Do we have anybody here in opposition to Riverside Drive? Anybody opposed? All right, do we have the owner or applicant here? Anything you'd like to say to the board?
Let's say question.
Might have any questions for the owner or applicant?
Given the site irregularities, I agree with the city and I move for approval.
All right, Mr. Goodman moves to approve. Mr. Bennett seconds the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, none are opposed. The motion passes unanimously. And the variances for 2 Riverside Drive are granted. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda, B10, 78 Rebellion Road, South Windermere, Council District 11, TMS number 421-09-00-098, zoned SR1, requesting a variance from section 54-301 to build a one-family detached dwelling with a 5-foot
Mr.
front.
Chairman, if I might ask, can we wait for Ms. Richards to
Oh, sure.
rejoin us
Yeah.
before we resume?
No, me, I'm just trying to keep things.
I know,
moving.
I know.
Eat my lunch.
Perfect. Yes, awesome. Okay, so I can say that we have that else we submitted. Ooh, we really want one, because we must. This more than that, yeah. Actually, the guy for him is one of these was for the fun of it.
That would make it go a lot faster.
Right? And she's so cute that everybody will be like, oh, okay. Where I brought mine, they're no longer in the cute stage, and so it'd be like, someone control that child.
All right, we will resume here, B10, 78 Rebellion Road, South Windermere, Council District 11. EMS number 421-09-00-098, zoned SR1. Requesting a variance from section 54-301 to build a one-family detached dwelling with a 5-foot front setback, 25 feet are required. The owners are Rose and Weston White. The applicant is Rhett Morgan Architect LLC. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so you can see the property in question here on the zoning map. The aerial will clarify the fact that this looks like it's a huge property. It is I think 3+ acres total technically. But most of that is marsh adjacent to, I believe this is a creek, right? Yeah. And so you can see here on the aerial that the highland area is really this stretch. Hopefully my cursor is showing up. This stretch here, which again is very much covered by a tree canopy, which we'll get into a part of this request and why it is. And then you have just really small areas of kind of open area that aren't covered by existing trees, which I believe we have a mix of grand and protected trees on the site. So this is a lot that there may be some questions about OCRM. So this lot was plotted, even though there's no existing home on it. It was platted in 1979 when most of this area was platted. While there have been some properties in the area, including the neighboring property to the north, I believe, on Rebellion, where there has been subsequent mapping action. There was a merge and re-subdivide. I don't know what we call it here, but essentially 2 lots became one. So they created a new plat up there. That made them now subject to the requirements for the 35 feet that people talk about, which is really the 25 foot buffer and then a 10-foot building setback from the buffer. Those 2 items do not technically apply to this property because it was platted before 2000. So it's important to just note that in our deliberations, I guess, on this site. are in your deliberations on this site, staff taking that into account. That said, the applicants have requested, are in building or proposing this house, they are being very cognizant of both the fact that they are, while they may have a large lot on paper, in reality, they have a relatively small buildable area of Highland. But they are also attempting to be sensitive to, I believe, based on what they provided us in the conversations we've had, both to the existing tree canopy on site as well as the marsh and what would normally be thought of as the critical area. In fact, the site plan is drawn, and again, Mr. Morgan will correct me if I'm wrong, but is drawn based on a critical line survey that was completed in 2023, which makes that a valid critical line. Again, we would require that at permitting because there's going to be a number of things to make sure that we don't actually have an encroachment on the critical line. But for purposes of zoning, there is no buffer from that critical line or setback from the buffer, since again, the buffer doesn't exist. Taking all of that into account, the applicants are proposing, and the variances that is before you is because of two elements. So the first element is they do have, obviously this is an elevated structure, and we'll see that when we get to the elevations. But to make the appropriate stairway coming off with a landing, while there is, and you see a number of lines here, you see that there is a line here that says porch stair setback. So we have an exception within their rules that allows for a porch or stair to encroach within the setback area up to a certain point. So they do have their porch that is encroaching within the setback area, but it's within the area that is allowed by the exception. In this case, however, they do have their stair here that comes outside of that zone and does come to within 5 feet of the property line. Again, it's also important to note that similar to the last property where we talked about the fact that there's a right of way and then there's this unimproved part of the right of way or remnant piece of right of way where the edge of the pavement is here. Then they have a zone that's about, I think it's 20 feet between the edge of pavement and their property line. And then, you know, they have their setbacks on site that they need to be meeting. So while they are encroaching into the setback to the property line, when you think of it in the bigger picture of the encroachment and the effect on the roadway, they are actually well back from that roadway. The other area that is of encroachment is in this design because they pushed the house forward to address tree canopies in the rear. They do end up with this shaded section here of the actual livable structure that intrudes within that 25-foot setback between the property line here and the house. But as noted, from the house to the road is actually to the improved road, our pavement edge is above 34 feet there, and actually 25 feet plus to the porch structure. So you can see also that, again, being cognizant of tree canopy and those protected trees, they have kind of threaded a needle here to provide this additional master bedroom space over here. I am going to note that while their height district would allow for them to do a full 2-story above elevated space, they have contained that additional elevation to just kind of the clear area, if you would. On this portion, you can't see where I'm pointing at because I'm pointing at my screen. This portion of the site, and again, we'll see that on the elevations, and minimized that height here by not going up the additional stories. Further, again, I'm not going to suggest it's a small house, but given context of the community where you have a few, what I might argue are modest homes, you also have a number of much larger homes in terms of square footage, both in terms of multiple stories, and then also just lot coverage areas. So staff does think that this house is and this setback is contextual. We actually are appreciative of the fact that, again, they didn't continue to go over this direction and build to the edge, because this is all marsh over here as well. That they're being responsive to the trees, being responsive to the critical line in their proposal. And so you can see here the elevation. So they're, again, protected tree here. This is that more open space where they would have the two-story element above the elevated portion, so they can get out of their flood zone. And then that one bedroom or one story kind of master suite kind of off to the side here. See additional perspectives on the elevations. Then they provided their own aerial so that you can see some different elements, and I'll let Mr. Morgan go through those if he chooses. Again, from a staff perspective, this is a very oddly shaped lot. One thing that's not clear in this, and I don't think we get it really from any of the aerials, is as you come around this curve here, this front that they are proposing to create with their porch and their stair is very much in line with the side setback from the house here at the corner of Rebellion and Dade, I think it is. So again, we're following along the line, if you would, with kind of maintaining kind of a impromptu setback that comes from here. And really, because the marsh comes all the way up to the road, you don't have another context point really on this adjacent side. My understanding is the applicants have been having communication with their neighbors. As a result of that communication and notification for this hearing, we did receive some late public comment that I believe was given to all the board members as an addition to the public comment packet that they received yesterday. And in that packet, I believe there are letters of both support and opposition for the project. And so that all that said, staff feels that this variance is appropriate, that this is a very encumbered site, and the request is relatively minimal in terms of the encroachment within the setback, and kind of offset by the fact that you do have that space between within the right of way between the actual roadway and where their property line sits. And so staff is recommending approval of this front yard or front setback.
All right, thank you, Robert. Do we have anybody here who wishes to speak in opposition to the application for 78 Rebellion? Okay. So we'll hear from you in a minute, but first we'll hear from the owner applicant.
My name is Rhett Morgan. I'm the architect for Rhodes and Weston. I know you guys have been here for a while, so Robert, thank you for your thorough introduction. I might get some of the facts since you did such a great job in covering that. Do I have?
No, you tell me where you want to go.
Okay. All right, let's skip along a little bit. Yeah, let's just start on the site plan. Sorry, one slide back. So, as Robert mentioned, please let me know if you can't hear me. So as Robert mentioned, you know, there's two areas that we're asking for this variance, and I think he also mentioned there's a space between the property line and the edge of pavement, and so really the distance to the edge of pavement is the easiest way for me to kind of measure this to adjacent parcels having limited information on setbacks and whatnot. And so just want to point out, so we're roughly about a little under 21 feet is what we're asking for I guess what we feel is a fairly modest stair to access the home. And then the conditioned space, the second part of the request that we're asking for. So that was a 5-foot in relief that we're asking for that stair. And then for the conditioned portion of the home, we're asking for roughly 6 feet in encroachment into that 25-foot front setback. It's approximately well, it's just under 35 feet to the road. So if you could maybe go to the photos sheet. There we go. That's good. Thank you. And so as Robert mentioned, so this is 54 Rebellion. So this is the next road. If we pass the property, it's going to be on your left. So we're coming up the road, property's on the left. This is 54. It's directly adjacent. And so you can see the condition, just the general proximity to the street that's existing right there now, and it's a similar distance that we're asking for. And 75 Rebellion directly across the street, also a fairly similar distance in what we're talking about as far as the stair being set back from the street and the conditioned area of the home being set back from the street. So I just want to point that out. And then I know Robert mentioned the trees. We did meet with an arborist and basically worked through our proposal and got their input on what the impact would be on those trees. And the city has a requirement on tree protection zones, not necessarily what is best for the health of the tree. In some situations it is, but canopies are organic, and so in some circumstances it was recommended that we maybe back off the trees a little bit more. So that's why we've done so. And so the siting was very carefully planned, with that input, with the program of my clients, and as Robert mentioned, a very unique geometry of the site, and just the limiting factor that these trees play into it. And so that's really the driver of our request, and why we're trying to push closer to the street in a manner that is similar to the adjacent properties. So I think I'll leave it at that for now. Unless there's any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Morgan right away? No, okay.
Well, actually, sorry.
No, not you.
Sorry. I guess there was one more important thing that I did want to point out, because I know that if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so can you go to the elevation, or actually, why don't we go to the left? That's good, that's good. So I know one of the measures, in this variance test is the impact on the neighboring properties, air, light, water, and so I think Robert got into, some of the, approaches that we're trying to take to minimize height, step the height back as we get into the lot, so that while we know, we are asking to get closer than would be allowed. This is the stair that we're talking about. It's a pretty modest height. Well, we've spoken with the neighbors adjacent, they don't feel like it's a detrimental impact that they've expressed to us. And so, we have taken measures to try to address that as well. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morgan. Anybody else wishes to speak in support? All right, now you.
Well, I just had a question about.
Come on up, please, and state your name and address into the microphone.
So my question is.
Your name and address, please.
Okay, Sean Sykes, 56 Rebellion.
Thank you.
Okay, so can I just ask a clarifying question?
Please.
Okay. So guys, where do you plan on putting garages?
Under the house.
I know, but where?
We're still kind of trying to figure it out, but.
Mr. Morgan, can you address the question on garages?
Yeah, absolutely. Would you go to actually, well, here we go. can show you on the elevation. So the plan is to pull under the larger volume of the house and park under.
And that's pertinent. And then I guess the other question was, so, you know, I mean, the reason I think some of us are here.
You could go ahead and address your
Well,
question to the board
yeah,
and
we're
then
here,
we'll follow up.
I'm here because, you know, we've had planning, you know, we just redid a house we were just in conversation, just denied certain setbacks or whatever. They said, no, you cannot do that.
Right.
Whether it be OCRM or what have you. So we made some pretty major design decisions around those recommendations. So this is quite a surprise to folks, you know, like, hey, this is, you know, so anyway, my other question is, what is the setback requirement now to the OCRM?
Okay, that'll be a question that Mr. Summerfield can answer.
Again, for this property, which was platted in 1979 prior to 2000 and therefore, and has not replatted like a few other properties in the neighborhood have.
Okay.
They do not have a setback, a mandatory setback to the OCRM.
So you can go straight to the line.
Again, technically, practically no, but technically yes, because because the site, the lot is technically all of that. And so their rear setback is the rear of the lot, which is in the middle of the Green Creek essentially. So yes, so without the OCRM buffer of being applied and therefore the building setback to the buffer being applied, the only other setback would be the rear setback, which again is not contingent on highland or not. And so yes, so technically they could build all the way up to the critical line. But again, in conversations with them, part of the request, the reason why they're asking to have the setback variance is because they are, while not required to meet those requirements of newer lots, they are trying to be sensitive to that situation. And the applicant can correct me if I've said any of that wrong.
Okay. No, thank you for that. Can you put it back on this, the previous, or well, this is fine. Just one of the ones with the aerials. So I just want to say, so we live here at 56. So even though we're not adjacent, this, you know, this proposal actually has potentially a pretty big impact on, you know, our views, et cetera. You know, we have this lazy corner of the river and, you know, having a 40, 50 foot structure right here has pretty big impacts on our sightlines. So both in, you know, mass, light, and height, guys, you know, so that's why I'm there. And just so you know, I just found out about this the other day, so, you know, I'm here to find out and just tell you what my concerns are. I think we're all reasonable here and I think we can figure something out, but I just would like to voice my concern. You know, so I did see the plans, I think late last night, and, you know, honestly, they raised more questions than were answered, some of which are answered here. You know, the OCRM critical line, that was the number one, that's surprising when I saw it. But then, here's a big question. Does a garage with a roofed porch that's probably 20 feet high, does that really, you know, does that really qualify as a porch? And then subject, you know, potentially subject to only a 10-foot setback. You know, we wanted to move our garage a little bit and change the configuration. We're 35 feet from the, you know, from the pavement and 25 from the, you know, the property line. Because, you know, so it just seems a little different there. So I don't know technically if that's something, but it feels pretty tight to me. And then I guess the other question, I mean, I just kind of, I guess the real question is, are the OCRM lines accurate? Because even if they were platted, who, you know, has DHEC looked at those? Because it's not that I don't know, I don't want to be unneighborly, but I do want to look out for, I do think this is an unprecedented, you know, the coverage is very high here. And so I'm concerned a little bit. you know, and then I think we can figure this out, but I guess I'd just like to have some, like I said, first time I'm hearing about it, I feel like a pretty highly impacted, party here, so. And then I'd just like to remark, if a variance is granted, I think it should pertain to specifically what's on the plan, not globally for any other possible configurations. And I'd like to, if you decide to go forward with this, I'd like you to consider that. So what I'm saying is, if you were to make it a global, you could do a lot of stuff on that other side that is not conceived in our conversation tonight. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Stiles.
All right.
Appreciate your
Thank you.
comments.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I just want to make sure, because he did ask the question, and I want to be clear for the record. So we do have, even though it's not a requirement at this stage, we do have from the applicant a signed, sealed, critical line, survey, that's from 2023, so that's still in effect. That does delineate where the critical line is. And that was the survey used to establish the site plan and the topography that we've been reviewing as a part of the site plan review for this case.
Thank you, Rob. All right, come on up and please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Susan Perlstein. I'm at 100 Chadwick Drive and 206 Rebellion Road. So I am the applicant that was referred to that abandoned the property line between the two. And the reason I did, if you want to go to this, I don't know if you can see 206 Rebellion, because I wanted to put a house here, but I was working within what I thought was a 35-foot setback before we discovered this manna from heaven that the whites have just brought the neighborhood, that the whole neighborhood is platted before 2000. So I guess what I'm looking for is not opposition or support, but clarification. I mentioned I grew up in South Windermere. I have two daughters that live in South Windermere. My sister's in South Windermere, and I was just the president of the South Windermere Neighborhood Association. We have quite a few houses along the marsh here. And if this exemption is for real, they really have just increased all of our property values that we don't have to pay attention. So is what's good for one, good for all, I guess, is I want to clarify that because we all have plats that were done before 2000. So we can come and we can do exactly what Sean said. We'll be able to build right up to the marsh line.
That'll be a city issue to be decided property by property. This one is a 5-foot setback on the front. So we're not deciding anything with respect to the OCRM critical line. That's not been presented to the board.
We found this beautiful exemption.
But I'm happy to give you my card or Matt's card. We can talk to you. Especially since I think I talked to your daughter earlier today. And the manna is gonna go to everybody but you because you
I know that.
combined you replatted your property since 2000. So, but I'm happy to give you my card. I'm sure Matt has a card. We can walk you through that.
But a lot of people in the neighborhood, because I was just recently president, have asked about this. Does this apply to them too? Like my renovation 100 Chadwick, like Sean Sykes, I did it within the critical line. We didn't know about this exemption. Our architects told us we had to work within the critical line. So this is great news for South Windermere and probably Burnsdown and lots of other marshfront properties. If in fact we can ignore these critical lines.
Don't not ignore the critical line and be very clear. It's the exception allows for properties that were platted prior to 2000 that they do not have the effect of the critical line buffer, and therefore they do not have the critical line buffer setback to building. It's all technical. They don't have the 35 feet, but they do have to, in absolute, no questions asked, adhere to the critical line and all the restrictions that come with the critical line and not encroaching past the critical line or impacting the critical line. But again, to the chairman's point, all of that is beyond the matter.
That's not something we're deciding. We appreciate your interest in it.
We don't decide that. We don't know.
We're not giving you any advisory opinions on this. at all. We're voting on the front setback and that's it.
Because the stair wouldn't be so close if the house had to fit within, you know, the little, I mean, for all of us here, we thought they'd have to build a tree house because it is such an odd shaped lot. So this did come as a surprise when we just realized that this exemption actually did exist. We're asked to look at a staircase. I think it is a bigger thing to look at here as it regards the neighborhood.
Yeah, so here's my card. Happy to have a side meeting at a future date to kind of talk through all of that and look at some maps.
Yes, sir.
But
Come on
and
up.
answer your questions.
My name's Michael Ratman. I live at 2 Date Drive, which is adjacent to the 54 Rebellion. So my house sits on Date, my driveway, and for all intents and purposes, my front door and garage are off of Rebellion right by it. And please, this is by no means like anything personal. We love the neighborhood. It's an amazing place to raise kids. Our kids have been raised there and we love it. We live in one of those more modest houses. And I think the part that I've had a little confusion of an understanding is we talked about the renovations made to 54 Rebellion. We lived there during those renovations. This was an attempt by those homeowners to work within an existing footprint of homes built and plotted in the 60s and 70s to try and add on some garages, which are not very common in South Windermere, and try to work to be as least disruptive as possible to the space and be sensitive to the flooding and all the other issues. This is a brand new lot. This is not trying to modify something that's already been there. And so what I'm having a hard time understanding is why do we have these restrictions, these setbacks, these parameters that we're supposed to be building in to protect our neighborhood, to protect the marsh, to protect all of these things that we talked about in our having rules. Then the plans that get submitted don't adhere to that and we need to bend to that. My concern is why, if this is a brand new project, doesn't that project have to fit within the framework of the rest of the neighborhood, of the variances that the board, the city, the county have all put together? And we are one of those more modest houses. We live in a ranch home that was built in the 60s. A footprint this size, where you are taking away so much of the grass covered land near the marsh, the flooding in this part of the neighborhood. This is not the other house you were talking about, this elevated area that's not at risk of flooding. This is at an AE flood level. This is the lowest flood level in the city. There is a reason we have these setbacks, these requirements. This will damage area and property and accessibility there. I would love to have you in the neighborhood, 4 young kids and a daughter that can babysit them, which is great for college funding. But we need a plan that works within the framework of our neighborhood, that protects all of our properties, that protects the space that we have, and that doesn't encroach on the areas that we have. There's a way for this to work within that, but I don't think new construction should be designed with the idea of going outside the frameworks that we put together to protect these areas.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Raven. This board is actually formed for the purpose of giving relief to those rules and regulations where there's a test that's met.
I think so.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I missed my chance to speak.
Come on up.
On approval, and I
You
just want to
you
say.
didn't miss anything.
Yeah. I'm Joseph Bauer. I'm at 75 Rebellion. I was one of the houses in the pictures. Thanks, it's great. Just speaking narrowly to what is being requested, that is at issue that the board's considering. My wife and I have had a chance to walk through the lot with Mr. Morgan and the Whites. And as it pertains narrowly to that, not speaking to critical lines, any of that sort of thing, I just wanted to voice that we are comfortable with it, and in fact comfortable with the setbacks that have been requested for the front portion of the property.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, anybody I missed? Anybody else like to speak in support or opposition? Seeing none, I'll give you an opportunity to rebut, Mr. Morgan, if you'd like.
I empathize with all the neighbors that, you know, have grown up or been in this neighborhood, and, you know, this lot has been empty. I know it's been used, and it's, you know, it is the change, and, you know, I think sometimes that's difficult. I can't really speak to specific circumstances of other lots and what happened there or what, and it's impossible for me to speak to that, but, the zoning ordinance is a very complex document, and, as you pointed out, it's kind of impossible for it to consider every condition and parcel, that might exist. And so that's exactly why we have this board, and that's why we're here. And I think it's probably not debatable that there are extraordinary circumstances on this lot. And I would challenge anybody to show me other parcels in the neighborhood that have these exact circumstances. So I also like to point out, while there are some folks in opposition, my clients did, take the time to speak with the neighbors that are directly adjacent and get their input. And we actually, originally submitted this several months ago. Well, August, it's been a while. And then when we heard of, issues that were, related to this request that we're making from Mr. Bauer over at 75, who I would argue is probably the most impacted property, we pulled that and we made adjustments, and we did try to address those concerns before we brought this proposal here tonight. And so I feel that we do meet all of the elements of the variance request. While it's, an impact to the neighborhood to see this undeveloped lot that, it's a very special lot, become developed, that's, kind of part of change, and they have every right to do that. And I guess more specifically to some of the comments regarding height, we're not requesting any additional height. We're not even pushing the limit of what the height could be. And I feel like, they've been very cognizant of that and that impact, and some of the things we've done with the design. We're not requesting to get any greater lot coverage. I mean, I feel like the home is in line with other homes. Well, there might be some smaller homes, it's generally in line with them. As far as the comments on the garage, I mean, we're fairly early in this design process. I don't anticipate that we'll be parking directly under the porch. I'm not sure if that's even applicable to what we're asking, but at this point, I can't imagine that we would, if that is applicable in any way. Yeah, I would just, again, we're asking for what I feel is a fairly modest request. I know that this posting has said, we're looking for 20 feet of relief. Well, it's really more like 5, 6 feet, it's, if you look at the nuances of the request. So, and I don't know that I have anything else to add. I don't know if you don't have anything to add. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Morgan. Do we have any discussion?
I'm moved by the fact that they're constrained by all these live oaks, and I move approval.
Okay. We got a motion to approve. Any further discussion?
Was it neighborhood association approved?
Mr. Morgan, did you submit any plans or the variance request to the neighborhood association? Do you know whether or not they weighed in on this?
I'm not aware of.
There's not a requirement. I'm asking you if it was done.
No, I'm not aware of an avenue of doing that, but.
Okay.
And they didn't weigh in one way or the other. We've received no comment from the South Windermere neighborhood group.
We're talking about the porch and the living area.
The porch and the sliver for the dining area are the two areas of encroachment. Here, where this area, I don't know where my mouse just went. There it is. Here, this area where the stair goes past, where the stairs and porch can encroach. And then this area here, again, to the property line. And then, you know, again, it's still, and that's the setback. But then one of the mitigating factors from staff's perspective in reviewing this was the fact that you then have this remnant piece of right of way that's like 20 feet that kind of adds on to the space between the where the roadway is and where the future home would be. But it's this shaded part here and this shaded part here that are the 2 points of contention.
I feel like it needs to go
Or
to the
relief.
neighborhood association.
Or relief, yes, thank you, better way of saying that.
All right, we've got a pending motion. Do I have a second? All right.
Question, Robert. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just feel like there seems to be a lot of concern in the neighborhood. That maybe needs to be addressed a little bit more.
I heard
I don't
concerns in the
disagree
neighborhood.
with-
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Richards.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the city's position necessarily. I just feel like there's an awful lot of opposition in the neighborhood. That's my.
When I listened to the opposition, I heard more about what people wanted to do with their own properties than necessarily an objection to the 25-foot setback and relief where there's the 20-foot right of way in front of the house. But I understand your concern.
And the porch has nothing to do with it, Robert?
The porch does have I'm sorry, the whatever color that is, the reddish color, that part is not, that is within the exception to the setback that we allow for porches and stairs. It's the fact that because of the landing to get down from the elevation down to the ground, to meet those requirements, they have this landing here that projects past that allowance. And so that creates at the 5-foot mark, of the setback. And then, like I said, while there's an allowance for the porch, this portion here of the dining room, and I guess the powder room here, those also are forward of the actual setback line. And so that encroachment is the other side of it. But those are, again, that encroachment doesn't begin, and I am bifocals, but I still can't see the number. That encroachment is
19.
Yeah, so that's at the 19-foot mark from the setback or from the property line, so.
All right, Mr. Goodwin, I hate to put you in the spotlight, but you'll either second it or.
Yeah,
All else,
exactly. Everything else is meeting requirements based on what we have in front of us.
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, so we've got a motion to approve. We've got it seconded. We'll call a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? One is opposed. Motion passes 3-1. Variance is granted for 78 Rebellion Road. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's too, please, no. I agree. Not at all, usually coming out every time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Are you joined by Mr. Bennett? And we are at B11. 1123 Lining Court, Parkwood Farm Field, West Ashley, Council District 11. EMS number 349-11-00-110, zoned SR1. Requesting a variance from section 54-301 to build a garage addition with a side setback of 3 feet, 9 feet are required. The owners applicants are Paul Fleury and Sarah Romano. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so you can see the property here on Line Court. This is a cul-de-sac subdivision. You can see the aerial here. With this property, it does back up to, I believe that is a street over there. Well, Canopy Street, at least in that area. So you can see the site plan here with the proposed addition that they'd like to do. They have an existing porch. So this is all conforming right here. However, as a part of their addition, they are proposing to do this new garage addition over here. And this is intruding into the side setback there so that you can see that for reference. You can see, again, just kind of a shade out of all the pieces, parts of this proposed renovation. You can see here their demo plan for the existing garage, where they would be converting that into new living space. I believe that's accurate. And then they would be proposing a new garage to be built on the outside of the on that side setback area. You see here photo of the current front. See here the front elevation where this new garage would be. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on this. I don't think there is. So this is one where, again, staff, we understand they're trying to create some additional living space. They had an existing garage that they're indicating that they're demo, and they're adding this one. We just couldn't get to the hardship on this. Looking at, again, the aerials, I'm not sure. Neighborhood impact, we did receive letters of support from 2 members of the community online in court. So again, not sure that there's a community character issue with the additions in the back and then this proposed addition on the side. Again, they're not creating a lot coverage issue as we understand it. It does feel like there is a lot going on this lot, though, in particular in comparison to some of the other properties in the neighborhood. But again, they have an existing garage. They're proposing to add a new garage as a part of their renovation. We just could not get to the hardship for the encroachment into the setback. And for that reason, staff cannot support this application this evening.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Do we have anybody opposed to the application for 1123 Line Court? I'd see no one opposed. Do we have the owner applicant here?
Yes, sir. I'm the owner. I appreciate you
Yep.
taking the time. I mean, I think the hardship is that if you look at the lot compared to the rest of the lots of the neighborhood, is our shape compared to the street frontage is kind of a diamond shape in addition to the city easement in the back. So we really aren't able to make full usage of our lot space there. To use it or to, you know, add on as we're open to the, again, as you hear, young growing families. So, you know, the hardship is being able to use the lot to our fullest means. And as you've heard, we do have letters of support from both neighboring properties. We're not harming the neighborhood, character in any form or fashion.
Yep, I saw the letters of support. You're a popular guy in the neighborhood, so.
Yeah, but I see overhead photograph again, please. So. The garage in question is going exactly the way I proposed.
It'd be on the east side, right there, yes, exactly. So we're still pretty
Yeah,
far
letter
back
of support from this adjacent neighbor.
on both sides, yes.
We see the front of the house again.
You mean the elevation picture?
Yeah.
There you go.
That right there, yeah. So.
So they have this as-built front elevation, which I mean, I assume just means existing. And then they have the proposed front elevation.
So that's the extension on the right side there, yes, sir.
Can you point to it?
So this would be the extension.
And that's proposed.
That's proposed, yes,
This one here is existing, this as-built front extension up at the top. So they would have a similar configuration for their garage and the second floor half-story element. They would just be essentially bumping that out of a bay, if you would, and then making the current garage space a part of their living space, if I understand the application correctly. And then because of moving the garage out here, that garage would now be at a 3-foot setback instead of the 9-foot setback that's that they currently are meeting and would be required.
Mr. Summerfield, your city's position as the part C of the test, effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict utilization is not met. The other parts maybe.
Yes.
Maybe are.
Yeah, we acknowledge the applicant is absolutely right. It's an odd shaped lot in comparison to the other neighbors. It does not feel grossly out of character in terms of the neighbors. In fact, they have support from the immediately affected neighbors. Our issue was you're demoing a garage and adding a new garage. And again, I don't know what exercises they went into with their contractor or their design professional, but they do have other areas of building envelope that they could potentially use to add space. I don't know how much that would be. But getting rid of your garage to add a new garage that's in the setback was just, they obviously have a garage. They have full use of the property. That was our issue. But we fully acknowledge that the other 3 parts of the test seem to be met.
I guess I was just, as you look at that picture, obviously we can't move to the northwest. We can't move forward. There are 2 oaks at the entry of the property for which we can't disturb, and I don't know the exact ordinances, obviously. And that's the most easily available area.
What is here now? Is this used as a driveway?
Yes, sir.
You park in here?
We do park in the driveway, yes, sir.
So the encroachment is into an existing paved driveway or?
They're pavers, so yes.
pavers?
Yeah, I mean, there's a picture that the intent of the picture was to show the distance between us and the neighboring property to show that.
That's your driveway you're talking about?
Yes, so this is, this is essentially, we would maintain our parking here and this would be obviously moved over and obviously there's a garage, but there would be living space above as well.
All right. Anything else you want to add?
I appreciate the time.
All right, any other questions for the owner? Thank you, sir. Any discussion?
I'm not sure how the rest of y'all feel, but I tend to agree with the city's position. The garage doesn't quite, I don't feel like it meets the heart there. More discussion, or I'll go ahead and make a motion to deny variance.
All right. So we got a motion on the floor to deny. Is there a second? All right, if there's not a second, is there another motion?
I'm moved by the fact that the area for the proposed variance encroachment is already effectively a paved driveway. I don't see harm heading into that driveway area, parking, the parking driveway. So I'd move to approve the variance.
All right, is there a second to that motion?
Discussion.
Any discussion?
So there is in the back, is that like a buffer? Is that, did you do the site again?
There is a easement in the rear of the property.
It's not built on, right? It's just an easement.
My understanding is it's just an easement.
It's a city drainage easement.
Yeah, drainage easement, thank you.
Neighbors on both sides approved.
Lot
Yes, sir.
17 and lot 19, yes.
What's the motion?
Current
Mr.
motion.
Morrison has moved to approve. Needs a second.
I'll second.
All right, Ms. Richards is going to second the motion. Taking Mr. Goodwin off the hot seat for a second time. Thank you, Ms. Richards. All right, so now we're going to vote. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Nay, I'm with you, Mr. Bennett, but we were the minority. You get your variance.
Much appreciated.
Yep, yes, sir. You have a good night. All right. Next item on our agenda, B12. 1340 Fifth Avenue, Washington Park, West Ashley. Council District 7, TMS number 418-05-00-041, zoned SR2, requesting variances from section 54-301 to build an accessory building with 3-foot rear setback, 25 feet are required, and a 3-foot 6-inch east side setback, 9 feet are required. The owner applicant is Nicholas Zipman. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so this is a request for property here on Fifth Avenue, just a little east of Playground Road. You can see this is a typical lot for the area, relatively deep rectangle with similar size lot frontage. You can see here in the aerial, the house pretty much is in line with several of the other houses, although there's a compound looking thing happening to their west. Not quite sure what's going on there, but I don't think that's all in the city. I think some of that's in the county, which means that it was probably built in the county. Anywho, moving forward. Yeah, I have to, I don't know what happened there with how part of that's in the city and part of that's not. So again, you can see on their plot plan, the existing single family, single story home here. They're looking at doing a accessory structure here in the rear of the property. You can see that they have an existing, I can't remember. Anyway, they have an existing shed back there, I believe. But now they're proposing. They've listed this as an ADU. We've determined that it's actually just an accessory building. right? Because we don't have an ADU permit for this. So they would be putting this proposed accessory building in the rear. You can kind of see it is a small structure, relatively speaking. It would provide, they'd have a shed with a little covered porch, kind of breezeway between the shed and the proposed accessory structure. In the accessory structure, they do have a small bathroom, a small, not kitchen, but kitchen-esque area, but they won't have a stove in there, which would make it a kitchen. And then they have like just a single area there. And see that they provided some context photos for the site. Again, it is a really deep lot, and so from a staff perspective, because of that deep lot and the relatively small nature of the proposed shed, it feels like there's adequate space within the property to, or I'm sorry, not the shed, the accessory building, that there's adequate space within the buildable envelope for the placement of this proposal. And for that reason, staff has recommended denial. If we were looking at the tests, we don't see that there's no site conditions that would warrant it in terms of an irregularly shaped lot. And it doesn't, by denying this, it doesn't preclude them from being able to move forward. That said, there are a number of other properties within the area that do have accessory buildings in the rear parts of their yard.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. Anybody have any opposition to the application for 1340 Fifth Avenue? Seeing no one in opposition, do we have a landlord or applicant or somebody on behalf of either? Come on up, please.
Mr. Bennett had a question.
That's all right.
Bennett.
I'll hold it.
All right, tell us why you can't build your accessory structure within the setbacks.
I'm sorry, I do need to clarify. So it's a setback issue because the height of the proposed accessory structure and the fact that it's a single family home, and we have a provision that in order to be given the setbacks that would apply to an accessory structure, that accessory structure cannot, Matt, you're gonna correct me if I'm saying this wrong, cannot exceed a certain height relative to the principal structure. And so as you
Qualify for the 3 foot.
it doesn't qualify for the 3 foot. Thank you. I forgot that nuance there in everything else. So yeah, because of the height of this, even though it's a relatively small accessory structure in terms of total area and the existing height of the primary structure, that disqualifies it from being able to use the normal accessory structure provision, which does allow for it to be within 3 feet of the rear and side setback, which I'm not entirely sure that the applicant knew about when she was trying to cite this.
That was my question. Did you know?
Trying to cite it, that there was this caveat about the height not allowing for, the height relative to the principal structure, not allowing for the use of those setbacks. Sorry.
All right, ma'am, your name?
I'm Jessica Stapleton.
Okay, and
It-
you are related to the
Married to
owner?
Nicholas.
Okay, all right, great.
So my understanding is that
This is your home?
it is.
And did you know that there was a height restriction in terms of where you could
I
put the
did
building?
a few weeks ago.
Okay, all right.
So, my understanding was that we were conditionally approved except for the height. The height allows us to put a little sleeping area, just a little loft up there. I have kids that are grown and come visit, so I need a little place to host people, and that's why we're requesting.
Okay, is there not a place on your property that you can put it inside the setbacks?
There's a shed that's already at the very back of the property. And so we want to cluster everything at the back of the property so that we can take advantage of the green space. And it will actually be less disruptive to the tree canopy if it's way in the back where there's already a building back there.
Could you reduce the height and put the bedroom on the ground level? That would increase the
I
footprint.
mean, can we reduce the height by 3 feet?
Is that what the,
If we reduce the height by 3 feet, we won't be able to have any sleeping area in it. So the only way to get the sleeping area in it, other than to expand it, the footprint out, is by just raising that and putting a little loft up there.
is there an accessory limit on the size, the footprint? they were to add in a.
There is in the
600
code,
square
there's a
feet or
provision that does limit the square footage of the accessory structure. I don't. I wanna say it's 800 square feet, but there are limitations on, but I may be mixing it up with the ADU provisions. Which also have different accessory or different size limitations. So don't quote me on that, we'd have to look that
I
up.
won't, because it would be a different design regardless.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
generally curious. Okay.
And is there a difference between accessory building and accessory dwelling unit?
Absolutely. So, and if it was an accessory dwelling unit, they come through our permitting process. We have a special permit through the code that's required. That you must do that evaluation prior to coming forward for being able to get building permits for an accessory dwelling unit. There's very detailed provisions in the code for that. That would allow that structure to have a separate meter. Would allow it to be rented out as long as the owner occupies the primary structure on the site. And it would allow, although if you did rent it out, there's some affordability requirements that would be required. It would also allow it to have a full stove. As an accessory building, it cannot have a stove, it cannot be rented out. They can use it as their guest house, or guest space. They can use it as a hobby room, they could use it as the office for their home occupation. But they would not be able to essentially make any revenue off of it. And they would not be able to give it the final piece of what would make for a dwelling unit, which would be putting in a stove, gas line or plug associated with I can't remember the voltage capacity. 220, thank you. They wouldn't be able to install that voltage back there. And it is limited to 600 square feet. And their proposed square footage. Well, given the size of this, their proposed square footage is much less than 600 square feet.
Yeah.
Could I see the full lot plan, please?
Yes, sir.
Because there's already a building back there, which we need to keep, we don't have a garage, so we don't have any other storage space. So because we need to keep that shed back there, this way, everything stays neat and tidy. And the yard and the green space is preserved.
Or you could put the proposed ADU on its axis, east and west, and put it just this side of the shed, couldn't you? And take up some of your green space, but not encroach in the setback.
Where?
I think he's seeing if you turned it here and did this program, but you did it with the accessory structure that you're proposing here, and then the little covered porch, and then maintaining your block shed. Then your accessory building would be within your setback. So you'd be meeting the setback requirements for the.
Put it in front of the shed?
Yeah, I think.
You wanna think about that?
What was that?
You wanna think about that? We could defer you, cause I can tell you, the hardship test is gonna be hard to meet. I feel like.
So walk me through the options.
Well, if I deferred, you could consider potential design plans that may or may not even require a variance. And may not
Okay.
require you to come back before this board, and you may be able to work with staff on a solution that satisfies your needs, preserves your green space, tree canopy, and yet is in better conformity with our rules. And even the fact that you tried, if you come back for a variance, even though you tried your hardest, and you have something that's less of an ask than what you have now, we might be more favorable towards.
Okay, I'm happy to try it if this is not gonna be a go.
Well, I can't predict how everybody's gonna vote. I just know that it's hard. The hardship test is can be a little tricky.
I did want to indicate though, that did have a letter of support from one of their neighbors. I apologize. I didn't remember if this was the neighbor to the east. So this would be on the Fifth Avenue side, the most closely impacted, because this would be the side yard encroachment that would affect them. But I don't think we received anything from either of the back neighbors, although again, these are long lots, so there's quite a bit of distance in those backyards from the back neighbors.
Thank you. And I don't, Robert, thank you. I don't think that there's any question as to any impact on the character of the neighborhood, any impact on adjoining or adjacent properties. I don't think any of that is an issue. I think the only issue that the board might struggle with is whether or not it is an unreasonable restriction on your property to be able to put your shed just where you want it. And to put this accessory structure.
So again, this is just for the 3-foot height? Is that correct?
That's one of the issues. If you didn't have the 3-foot height, then you could put it, I think, just about wherever you want, right?
If we didn't have the height conflict with the primary, honestly, do a second story addition on your home, then this will be in. Sorry, that's
a short.
Yes.
You need to talk through with staff.
Yeah,
And all these issues, we're not here to do the staff's job, talking through all your options with
Right,
respect.
okay.
You've asked for something that's clearly in violation. You seem to have other options. Your best bet, in my view, is to try to work out another option that takes this out of our purview.
Okay. If I don't withdraw and I'm denied, then am I just out of luck?
I think you got at least 6 months.
6 months before you could bring the same application back and have it reconsidered. To the chairman's point, my advice is the planning director would be that you request that the board defer your item, set a meeting with Matt, Chris and I, so that we can just talk through a little more to Mr. Morrison's point. And then if at the end of the day, you still want to make the ask of the variance, then your item is already paid and it's already been noticed, and we would put you on the next available agenda. We can figure out a solution that is amenable to what you're trying to accomplish, that doesn't require coming back to the board, or comes back to the board with maybe a less intense request, then we can proceed there.
You're not prejudiced by a deferral.
Okay.
Okay, somebody want to make a formal motion?
Move for
All right,
deferral.
Mr. Richards will make the motion, second by Mr. Bennett. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. You're deferred. I think you can work out your issue and solve your problem. Thank you. Sorry you had to wait all night for that. All right, next item on the agenda.
Ma'am, if you would reach out to Matt, when you have a moment, just with some availability, and then we can set up meetings so that we can discuss.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, B13, 107 America Street, East Side Council District 4, TMS number 459-05-04-007 zone DR2F, requesting an appeal for reconsideration of a decision of the zoning administrator to revoke a short-term rental permit under section 54-208E2. The owners applicants Richard and Megan Schubert. Sounds familiar. All right. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so this is property that, as you alluded to, the board is familiar with. This is mid-block on America Street, 107 America. You previously had heard this for a appeal of the denial of the renewal of their permit for a short-term rental at this location due to the size disparity between the portion of the property that the Schuberts live in, which was the back newer portion, versus the portion that they were short-term renting, which was the older historic portion in the front. Based on the direction of the board, we got with the Schuberts, because they were relatively close in terms of getting to a point where the square footage is kind of satisfied the substantial versus not. We were able to work out a plan whereby they were able to eliminate the front porch from their from the STR as habitable space. That brought the square footage down to just under what we needed to, so that it was, the square footage of the STR was smaller than the square footage of the back house. That appeal didn't have to come back to you all. We were able to take care of that. We were able to approve their permit. We did have a very clear condition on that permit with regard to the porch space, and the fact that that was off limits in terms of use as a part of the STR and not habitable. Our livability team that addresses short-term rentals did their periodic review. As a part of that periodic review, it came up on the what is the Airbnb, the hosting platforms, that it still showed that space as available as a part of the rental. In fact, I think in the pictures or what have you, it may have had a day bed. That was then referred to legal and to the planning department, since it's we issue the permit, finding that they were not satisfying the condition of their permit. We issued a revocation of that permit per standard procedure. And so we revoked. The applicants got that revocation. They then immediately went and scrubbed the online presence to correct what, based on communications we've had with them since the revocation, and they can obviously speak to it. It was an oversight on their part. They hadn't realized or updated those listings for years, and so they didn't even know that the listing had previously mentioned, alone still referred to the porch area and the daybed or what have you situation that was there. At which point we advised them that this is the process again for how they would appeal that revocation, and they did that within the time frame appropriate to do that. And so that is what we are here for. Again, as far as a recommendation, I can't recommend to not do the thing that I already did. So to the extent that I have a recommendation, it would be to uphold the revocation. But obviously the Schubergs are here to be able to speak towards those matters that I brought forward. And we have counsel here if there's any legal questions and requests for an executive session to discuss those legal questions.
Thank you, Robert. Let me have a question. I've got a question for you real quick. So let's say that we uphold the zoning administrator's decision. Are they forever barred from short-term rental, or can they reapply at some point in time?
I believe it's a 2-year.
2-year window.
I believe
for reapplication.
I believe it's a 2-year. I believe it's a 2-year window on if you've been revoked. I believe it's a 2-year window before you can reapply, but I will double check that.
Okay,
What
all right.
you're doing.
We'll hear from the Schubergs and come on up and tell us what happened. We thought we had done you a service previously, and now we're back.
Good evening. Thank you for your time, your patience. Yes, so it was brought to our attention on the 11th of September. We had went through all the due diligence with the board, with Robert, with Matt. We updated our home to reflect under the direction that you guys had given us to make us feasible and give us our permit back. This was strictly and solely an oversight on our end. It was not a fact of the description of my home not maintaining what you guys directed us to have. It was, we simply we did not remove the pictures showing the bed. So here I actually have updated pictures to pass around for you. That is what we have done since our meeting in August to make ourselves up to date with our short-term rental. Numerous conversations with Robert and his team. And I understand this was solely, this was not an ill manner. This was a strict oversight on our part. You know, and it kind of falls in line. I know that we've gone back and forth about, you know, the approval for the past 3 years, and then there was an oversight regarding the variances between, you know, the square footage of the homes. So, we're asking for grace on that. We are in full compliance with our home and would like our short-term rental license back, because this is our livelihood.
But let me ask you this. During the period of time where you got your permit back, did anybody, any of your renters use this space?
Once we had our permit back,
In other words, you got your permit back on the condition that this was gonna be unrentable space, right?
correct.
And so my question to you is, since you got it back, did anybody use it when you rented it?
Well, it's the breezeway, if you remember
Is there
correctly,
a day
so,
bed? Is there a day bed in there?
no, it's that right there.
And that's been that way since you got your permit approval
Since
back?
August.
We just hadn't update, like, and we didn't even realize that in the listing, and we can show you a listing now. Like, it's not listed, but like, we didn't even realize that it said air conditioned or heated or fire alarm or anything. I mean, I was looking at the listing, you know, there's all the different amenities you can add, and we just, you know, thought we designed it for the house. I mean, it's literally an honest mistake. We're not trying to, you know, do anything that's illegal, you know, in regards to.
Are y'all still listed are y'all listed in multiple booking websites, or are you just on one?
I mean, it's only property cap. We're not a large company, you know, we have that. We both work normal, you know, jobs.
No, I just meant, I didn't know if these photos might show up on like VRBO or other different.
No, we just use Airbnb.
What's the current status of the permit?
So again, they have been revoked, so they have not been operating since they received their revocation.
Are you advertising currently? Is there
No,
an
we bought
advertisement
the
up?
property.
You pulled your advertising?
Yeah, not even due in 30 days.
In response to the revocation. So you've done that right.
How long has the revocation been in place?
This was,
September 11th.
yeah, September 11th.
And that's when the pictures were still on the website. That was the reason.
Yeah, and as soon as I saw that and
As soon as I
realized
got
the
the
mistake
email.
that we made,
They were removed 15 minutes later at that,
yeah.
after we spoke with Jason. Bro.
You know, in regards to like the square footage thing, you know, we learned, you know, that rule had been in place for a long time, but it had been an oversight on the city or hadn't been enforced. Even though like in the category 2, we didn't see that in the rules. You know, it was even like, you know, it was just an honest, you know, undersight on our part. So. And this house is, I mean, like, this is a big part of I mean, to live there in that area, you know, we need the short-term rental license.
Did the city inspect after providing the permit?
I believe we did. We went out and verified that the vents had been covered so that they weren't being used. Did we physically inspect or I know we received photos.
And then,
But I can't remember, I'll be honest, I cannot recall exactly if we physically inspected. I thought we did. I'm pretty sure we did, but I wouldn't want to say that definitively.
and then, yeah, we had the fire inspection.
Yeah, and then fire would have gone out there as well.
And then, in regards to, you know, like, it was, you know, unconditioned space, you know, I don't know, I just feel like it was an honest, you know, it was an honest mistake, you know, like we created listings so long ago. You know, sometimes you miss small things and we're not trying to like do anything wrong.
Right.
And you asked, was it rented? Or has it been rented?
That's what I asked. Was it
No.
used by the short-term renters? And they're telling me it's sort of a breezeway, walkway or something.
Okay.
It is a.
Can we attach conditions to appeals You can decisions to appeals, like we'll never hear about this permit again. Okay.
No, I was gonna say, I can reasonably put conditions on permits, but
I've
I can't.
enjoyed our 4 or 5 months together. to be
I mean, I know
honest.
Mr. Goodwin's handsome, but you didn't have to come back this many times.
I hope that proves that I'm here, I'm hoping to stay.
All right.
I'll make a motion for, let me make sure I get that right.
Grace and mercy.
Yeah, exactly. That overturn the zoning administrator's decision and reinstate the short-term rental permit.
With all existing conditions still enforced.
Yes, that is correct. And I hope for y'all's sake that, you know, the 2-year penalty is pretty severe. I'm sure you're aware. So we hope that doesn't come up again.
Yes. absolutely.
Yeah.
I might make a suggestion as well, that you put something, you know, I don't know if we could say put something in your lease. I might be a little bit above where we are, but if somebody leases it, they need to know that they're not, you know, we're not leasing this space or that space. That might be something you might want to add to
Well,
say.
and that's actually a condition through Airbnb, so
Okay.
you are judged on that. You are judged on, does the home suffice to what is actually publicized? As well as safety regulations, everything like that. So that's where you get your scores from. So they are very, very in tune to like, that is just strictly to be used as like a walkway area. So there's nothing anymore else.
I got you.
Yeah.
That would help if, when he comes knock, Mr. Summerfield comes knocking on the door, you can say, I told them they shouldn't be sleeping on the floor over there.
I'm just gonna start putting itineraries right up there.
Okay.
Make sure you sign this.
Well, we have a motion pending, and I just want to say, you all, you know, you don't want to come back here, any other times, please, on this issue. And,
It won't be back. I'm not worried about that.
Stay, make sure you do it all right, okay?
I
Please,
will.
for everybody's sake.
Very due diligence. Yes.
All right, we'll vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
We get a second.
Yeah, we got a second.
Okay.
Can I just add one thing? Before I make this post public again, can I send it to you, the link? Would you read through the entire description, all the,
You
every,
can send it to Jason Rowe.
to Jason?
Jason.
Okay, you know I'm gonna add you on there.
Yeah, and that part's fine. I just want to make sure that the workflow, you know, we're in an appeal period on something like this. What I want to do, I don't want us to get ahead of ourselves. I don't think so either, but I just want to make sure, this is, it's based on the permit, but basically by the board's action, they're just reactivating an existing permit.
If there only would be if there was an appeal of this decision by somebody else.
Right. Okay, all right, cool. So yeah, you can get us that tomorrow and then potentially be back up and running by the weekend.
Okay, wonderful.
But don't post anything until you actually get a new updated.
And that'll come from
in
Jason,
effect,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
in effect.
And it'll be unlisted. You'll see when you open it, be unlisted.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fine.
thank you all for your time. Thank you.
All right, have a good night.
Now I know why you had to stay so long. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, resume, this is. She's still away.
Thank you, Magdalene. Thank you.